Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 14th episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Land of Earth, undisclosed location. The mountains of the Land of Earth are one of the most inhospitable places of the entire elemental nations, with only the Land of Wind's demon desert managing to be close in such terms. The mountains had everything that made them unfit for humans being to live there: no trees to harvest lumber, no fertile land that could be farmed, very little available water, an extremely strenuous terrain difficult to traverse, much less to build a village on, and the only animals who dared to live there were large, ferocious beasts that were constantly fighting each other, usually for food, who didn't mind the collateral damage their fights could cause. Yes, such combination of factors made the mountains a place completely devoid of human beings. Just like Han wanted. Han, known as Han of the Steam Armor, while technically being an IWA ninja, preferred to live alone, far away from civilization. He was an extremely tall man, wearing a crimson armor that covered most of his body, and his face being obscured by both a mask that covered his mouth and nose, and a red conical straw hat. Being a Jinchuriki, the man had faced discrimination and scorn from his peers most of his life. That's why he chose a life of quiet solitude. While he was preparing some food, Han could hear the footsteps of several men. Whenever the Tsuchikage had a mission for him, he would send a squad of ninja with the news and details for his mission. It was an agreement he reached with Inoki, the current Tsuchikage. He would be allowed to live alone in peace, but he would work for IWA whenever they needed him. It was a better alternative than being a missing nin. Besides, that way he could get the supplies he needed to survive in such an hostile environment. However, there was a problem: these men, the four of them, weren't IWA ninja. In fact, they didn't look like ninja at all. They were wearing robes akin to religious men, had their heads shaved, and their skin was dyed pitch black with white patterns, almost emulating bones. Han deduced they had to be some sort of cultists. "I don't know who you are," Han calmly said as he stood up. "But if you value your lives, you should leave this place immediately." The weird-looking men grinned, and unsheathed ritual daggers. Such a strange weapon to bring to a fight. "Sorry, you sinner, but our high priest has asked us to get you," one of the cultists said, grinning widely. "Alive, unfortunately. Janshin-sama won't be happy, but the word of our high priest can't be denied," another cultist said, as he menacingly advanced towards Han. "So make our jobs easier and dash." The third cultist never got to finish his sentence. In a blink, Han appeared before him, and blew a hole in his chest with a brutal punch, his fist bursting through the man's back. Han shook the man's lifeless corpse from his arm, and shot a murderous glare at the other three. "Who wants to go next?" he asked. A moment of silence. Then, the three remaining cultists' face contorted with rage, raised their daggers, and charged at Han. "For Janshin-sama!" they yelled in unison. Meanwhile, hidden above them, two men wearing black cloaks with red clouds observed the fight. One was a young man with slick silver hair combed backwards, who carried a large, three-bladed scythe. The other was a taller man whose face was covered by a mask, leaving only his bloodshot green eyes visible. "Your cultists are so inefficient, it's almost hilarious, Haydn," the second man commented. Haydn just shrugged, and chuckled. "I know. But I didn't bring those fuckers here to do our job for us, Kakuzu. It was you who wanted to asses our target before taking him on. Who cares if they die? We aren't going to do much assessment if they die so quickly," Kakuzu noted, as he observed how Han cooked a cultist alive with an attack that involved steam. "Look, he already killed 3 of them. We aren't going to kill him, and Janshin-sama demands sacrifices. It doesn't matter if it's a faithful or a heretic, even if Janshin-sama prefers the latter. It will grant us a swift victory," Haydn explained. Kakuzu frowned, and glared at his partner. Do not let those superstitious beliefs of yours make you think you're invincible and fumble the mission. It took us way too long to locate Han to fail now. What are you saying by superstitions, you son of a bitch? Haiden yelled at Kakuzu as he grabbed his scythe. Fucking take back those words or else hey, who the hell are you? Han asked from below, after noticing the two Akatsuki. Kakuzu's glare intensified. Way to go, idiot, he saw us. Now we lost the element of surprise. Oh, who the hell needs that? I'm sure this fucker ain't that strong. Come on, Kakuzu. Haiden shouted as he leaped at Han. Kakuzu groaned loudly. One day, Haiden, I'll find a way to kill you. Seas of the Land of Water, Mei's transport ship Sasuke and Sakura moved to the latter's cabin, of which she shared with Karen and their sensei, Shizun, to discuss the Pinkette's less-than-stellar attempt at getting closer to Sai. You know, the point of asking you to go talk to Sai instead of me is because you are better suited for this kind of situations, Sasuke pointed out. Sakura groaned. I know, but the guy called me ugly. We just met, and he called me that. And he had the gall to claim it was an affectionate nickname. Anyway, while the guy was being fished back to the ship, I asked some questions to the others, mainly if they knew about him, Sasuke told her. And what did you find out? Apparently, he's an ANBU. And not just that, but he had been trained as an ANBU all his life, the Uchiha revealed. Sakura raised an eyebrow. That's odd. ANBU or not, all ninja are required to graduate the academy. I thought that as well. But apparently, he's part of some sort of experimental training in order to produce agents better suited for Black Ops, Sasuke explained. No wonder the guy is so socially awkward. I didn't know the Hokage allowed for this kind of brutal methods. Isn't that the reason there's a rebellion in Kiri? The Pinkette asked. Yes. But you can voice your concern when we get back. As for the time being, we should keep an eye on him, Sasuke decided. Shouldn't we focus on the mission at hand instead? Sakura asked. Sasuke snorted. We're not genin anymore. We can do both things. Sakura blushed a bit in slight embarrassment. Right, sorry. By the way, where is Karen? I haven't seen her in all day, Sasuke wondered. To answer Sasuke's question, Karen was with Neji on the latter's cabin, of which he also shared with the other male members of their team. As previously stated, there was nothing much to do on a plane transport ship other than talk with others, eat or make out, and Karen and Neji decided to do the latter. However, after their make-out session, they decided to just relax, and remain snuggled on Neji's small but comfortable bed. I don't know how can I resist being far away from you for so long, Karen moaned, knowing full well that she wouldn't be able to stay with Neji once the mission began. They say absence makes the heart to grow fonder, Neji replied. The longer we are apart, the more we want to see each other again. Even then. Sometimes I envy Naruto Nizan so much. He gets to see his girlfriend all the time. How I wish you were on my team, Karen continued. Maybe, but it was our fate not to be teammates, Neji replied. That doesn't mean that our bond is any weaker, though. Karen smiled, of course not, she said as she kissed him in the lips. But maybe once this mission is over, we can ask for some vacation days. To spend it together, you know. While that sounds enticing, I'm afraid I will still be busy preparing my promotion to Jonin. Leisure time will have to wait, Neji replied. Karen frowned, and crossed her arms over her chest, and pouted a little. You're no fun. You already train and a lot, and are among the strongest ninja of our age. Isn't that enough for you? No, not until I don't achieve the Jonin rank, Neji replied. There's always room to get better. What about you, Karen? What about me, what? Karen asked back. Are you implying that I'm weak or I don't train enough? Far from it. But I wonder if you plan to stay a Chunin forever, Neji asked. Karen raised an eyebrow. I just got the rank not even a year ago. I don't think I'm ready to go for another promotion so soon. Why not? You're strong, and one of the kunoichi with the greatest potential I've ever seen. You could easily become Jonin before reaching adulthood, Niji observed. Karen blushed a bit. Why you think so? I wouldn't say that if I didn't think it. You only need to push yourself further, Niji advised. Hey! I do push myself really far, thank you very much. Karen protested, as she fixed a hard stare on her boyfriend. Niji, however, smirked. You think so? In that case, you wouldn't mind training with me and my team one of these days? Oh, please. Sakura trained with you guys. If she can do that, then so can I, Karen confidently replied. You sound very sure of yourself, Niji noted. Karen smirked at him. Of course I am. I'm very strong and have a lot of potential, right? And since I'm so sure, let's make this more interesting. If I manage to resist everything your training routine throws at me, you'll take a few days off to spend with me. No missions, and no training. And what if you fail? Niji asked. How dare you suggest I'm gonna fail, Karen stated, sounding half indignant. Let me think. If I fail, I'll admit you're right, and I'll continue training alongside you until you deem me worthy. Both outcomes involve getting closer to me, Niji observed. Karen frowned once again. And you're complaining? This time it was Niji who smirked at her. Not in the slightest. Niji then moved closer to Karen, and the two teens continued kissing. That's it, until somebody knocked the door. Ugh! Karen groaned. Go away. We're a bit busy here. I'm sorry to tell you that makeout time is over. We arrived at Mei-san's base, a voice the two of them recognized as Tenten informed them. Awesome timing, Karen snarked, as she rolled her eyes. I feel you, sister. Haku-kun and I were getting intimate too when Lee told me to look for Niji, Tenten replied. When they said that the first stop would be Mei's base, everybody imagined that they would go to some sort of town, small city, hidden fortress, or even a campsite. Yet instead, looming over the transport ship was an even bigger metal ship, way bigger than the one that hosted the preliminaries during the Chunin exam finals at Konoha. The huge ship was also surrounded by a thick layer of mist, probably created by the ninjas on board, in order to keep the ship hidden from any kind of sea patrol. Once the smaller ship was closer to the bigger one, a gangway was placed between the two of them so the Konoha ninja could access Mei's base. That hat's your base? An incredulous Kiba asked. Of course, Mei replied. The land of water is not exactly big, and if I had a base on land, it would have been found and raised sooner or later. But by establishing my command center in a ship, my forces and I can be constantly on the move and avoid Yugura's trackers. I do have a few decoy bases in the mainland in order to distract the enemy, though, Mei added. That's a very intelligent thing to do, Kakashi praised. Ah, thanks. But I have to admit this idea was born out of experience and necessity rather than wit or intellect, Mei conceded. Amuri took a step forward. Everybody, get on board the ship. There's much to discuss and prepare, so time is of essence. Our personnel will show you your new cabins, as well as all of the ship's place of interest. And unlike this one, it has places where you can spar and train, Chojuro continued. We hope that you find the Kirigakure's hope to your liking. After a few minutes, all of Konoha's ninja were aboard the Hope, and the smaller transport ship took a different direction. All of the Jonin, come with me to the war room so we can discuss your first mission for the rebellion. Everybody else will be briefed once a plan had been devised. For the time being, feel free to roam the ship and see everything she has to offer, Mei instructed the Konoha ninja. Everybody took on Mei's offer, and decided to explore the ship. Much to their joy, the ship had multiple training and sparring rooms where the idle ninja could blow some steam and keep their skills honed. Plus the rooms were extra reinforced so the fights wouldn't damage the rest of the ship. Made sense for the ship to have such rooms, since Mei's ninja needed a place to train. Naruto and Hinata wondered if they could resume the makeout session that was tragically interrupted when Haku told them they had arrived, but neither of them were in the mood after such a jarring interruption. The blonde Jinchuriki then suggested to continue his training in lightning release, something Hinata didn't mind at all. Lightning release, spark shot. After doing the required hand seals, Naruto pointed 2 fingers forward, releasing a ridiculously small electrical bolt. "Damn it," he yelled, as he stomped his foot in frustration. Spark shot was a D-rank jutsu, and the weakest and most simple lightning release jutsu. Yet Naruto was having trouble mastering it. His other 39 clones weren't having a much better time either. "Calm down, Naruto-kun. Frustration rarely leads to success," Hinata wisely advised. "I can't help but feel like that when I fail to master such a simple jutsu as this. I mean, I completed a jutsu my biological dad was unable to. I'm better than this." Naruto replied. "Even with clones, you can't expect to master everything the first try. I mean, you told me it took you weeks to combine elemental chakra with the Rasengan, right?" Hinata pointed out. Naruto reluctantly nodded. "This is the same. Now, let's continue, shall we? Maybe you could give me some advice?" "There's something I must be doing wrong," Naruto told her. Hinata looked pensive. She brought a finger to her lips. I know. I'll use my Byakugan and see how you mold your chakra before using the jutsu. That way I can see if you're doing something wrong." A devious smile appeared on Naruto's face. "Hinata-heim, if you wanted to see me without clothes, you only need to ask." Hinata turned incredibly red. "WWJT. That's not what I mean, would never," she started to babble. "Relax, Heim. You should know that I'm joking," Naruto laughed. "Well, it wasn't funny. I don't like when people insinuate that about me or my clan," Hinata protested, her normally pale face still pink. "And I wish you stopped doing it." "I do it because you're adorable when you get that flustered," Naruto replied, still showing that roguish smile. "Well, do you want me to help you, or not?" Hinata huffed, crossing her arms over her chest. Okay, sorry," Naruto replied. "Boy, I think I did that way too many times already. Hinata-heim doesn't anger easily, but I better do something to make up for that just in case." Byakugan. Naruto and his clones repeated the jutsu a couple times, under Hinata's watchful gaze. They didn't need to go it a third time. "Okay, I think I know what you're doing wrong," Hinata said. All clones looked at her, expectant. "And that would be?" the original asked. "You released the chakra way too early. You need to let it build up for a while before casting the jutsu," Hinata stated. "Oh, I see," the original Naruto replied, and both he and his clones proceeded to do the jutsu as Hinata advised. "Like this?" This time, the lightning bolt was thicker, even if it still didn't have enough power. "Yes, like that. Good job." Hinata cheered. "Hey, wait a minute," a clone said in realization. "Both you and Sasuke use lightning jutsu instantly. How's that?" "Practice," Hinata said, as she shrugged. "When I started, I also had to spend a couple seconds building up the chakra so I could release the jutsu properly. As time passed, my skill improved, so I needed to do it less and less." "Of course," the blonde replied, then he turned at his clones. "Alright guys, let's work on this so by the end of the day, we can do it instantly just like Hinata-heim does." A chorus of "right, yeah," and "sure," replied, as the army of clones began to work on the jutsu with even more enthusiasm and energy than before. Hinata giggled as she kept watching over the clones trying to master the jutsu down. However, it seemed like the training would come to a stop, since her Byakugan saw somebody who was about to enter the room. Somebody who was rather close to Naruto for personal reasons. "Naruto-Nizan?" Karen asked as she entered the training room. Oh. Oh, Karen-nichan, hi, the original Naruto said, while the clones were still focused with the training at hand. She looked around, and saw Hinata among the army of clones. Is this a bad moment? Are you busy? I'm training with Hinata-hime, don't worry, the original Naruto said, as he created an additional clone. I hope you don't mind talking to a clone. I guess not, Karen said as she shrugged. Cool then, the new clone said, as he left the original and his siblings, and went to talk with Karen. So, what's up? Karen and the Naruto clone exited the training room, so the original and his girlfriend could train alone. Naruto, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, Karen started, looking at Naruto in the eyes. Do you think I'm strong? What? Of course you are. Naruto replied. Why ask me that? You think you're not? Well, Neji pointed out that I could be stronger than what I'm now. That I'm not fulfilling my potential, she said, making air quotes. Do you agree with him? The clone looked pensive. Well, you do have a lot of untapped potential. But I'd say you should improve at your own pace. Neji is a genius. Guys like him improve at an insanely fast pace. Normal people like you and me should take it easy. Karen raised an eyebrow. You, normal? I think you're actually closer to him than you're to me. Well, I kinda have the clones, so my case is special, hee, the clone laughed. Then, he remembered something. But then again, you do have shadow clones too, right? You can use that to get stronger faster than normal. I can't make as many clones as you. My limit used to be 4, and with a lot of training I managed to push it to 5, Karen explained. Hey, even then, it's still something, the clone replied. My dad's limit is 6, yet he still used them to great effect. You should try that too. Alright, I will, Karen replied, as she let out a weary sigh. Something the clone noticed. Worriedly, he de-iced to press on a little. Is everything between Neji and you alright? Neji-kun is as loving as ever. Is just that recently, Karen began, and paused for a bit, before sighing again. Neji-kun nowadays seems to be overly focused on his ninja career. He's been working on his promotion to special Jonin like crazy, and now he wants to be Jonin. And you think he's neglecting you? Naruto asked. Karen rubbed her arm. A little bit, yes. But I can't blame him for wanting to look for his future. It's just that I'm afraid that I might be a load to him. I don't want to drag him down. Well, you can always train more. Push yourself to dash, it's not that, Karen interrupted the clone. I worked very hard for my Chunin promotion, and I'm very happy with it. While I don't plan to stay at Chunin forever, I wasn't looking forward any further promotion anytime soon. But after talking with Neji it made me feel inadequate. If you're happy with the way you are, then you shouldn't try to change that. Let Neji progress at his preferred pace, and you progress at your own, Naruto said with a shrug. Funny, I got a similar conversation with Hinata. She seems to think the same as you. She has to, given that you're her boyfriend, and I know that she isn't a genius, Karen replied, placing her hands on her hips. So, anyway, what do you think I should do? Try to get a promotion whenever you want it, and most importantly, whenever you feel you're ready. If you're not ready, it won't matter how much you want it, Naruto told her. I'm sure Neji will understand your reasons. Let's hope he does, Karen replied. Anyway, thanks a lot for talking with me. Now I feel a bit better about both myself and my relationship with Neji. Hey, what's family for? The clone heartily replied, and chuckled. I'm sure I can always talk with you if I ever have a problem. You can, but I don't have your spirit, so don't expect me to be of much help. Other than having somebody listen to you, Karen replied. Sometimes, having somebody to listen to you is all what you need, the clone said before dispelling in a cloud of smoke, leaving Karen alone. Ship's cafeteria. Feeling she could get some food after doing some light training, Rin decided to head to the ship's cafeteria. As expected from such a place that served as the rebels' main base, the cafeteria was a huge place, full of long tables and benches attached to the ground. It was relatively early, so there were only a few people scattered through the many tables. Well, at least I'm not going to have any problems finding a place to eat, she chuckled. After picking her food, she headed towards the nearest table, until a shout followed by laughter caught her attention. Looked around, she saw that the commotion came from one of the tables towards the middle, where a trio of Konoha ninja were also eating while chatting a bit. Taking a better look at them, she realized that they weren't some random ninja, but Kakashi's animal squad. The silver-haired Jonin did talk to Rin about his cute little genin, now cute little Chunin, but she never met them properly. Maybe now there was a chance to do so, and also befriend some people of her age group. From what Kakashi had told her, they were very friendly. Taking a deep breath, she walked towards their table. None of them seemed to notice her presence until she opened her mouth. "Excuse me, do you mind if I sit with you?" Rin politely asked, putting on her best smile. "Sure. The more the merrier," the brown-haired girl cheerfully replied as she patted the empty seat next to her. "I'm Tamaki, and these are my friends and teammates, Kiba and Shino." An indignant bark came from under the table. "Oh, and Akamaru." "Sorry for forgetting about you, boy," Tamaki replied, as she handed the now visible dog a treat, which he happily munched. "Hi there," Kiba replied, just as energetic as Tamaki. "Hello," Shino said in his usual monotone. "Nice to meet all of you. My name's Rin Noera," the medicnine introduced herself as she took a seat. "Wait, Rin Noera? The Rin Noera?" Kiba asked in shock. As in, Kakashi-sensei's deceased teammate who came to life by mysterious means. Rin chuckled awkwardly. "Yup, that's me." "Awesome. What does it feel to be dead?" Kiba asked. Tamaki's mouth curved into a frown, and kicked Kiba under the table. "Ow, what was that for? Don't be so rude. That was such an insensitive question, you jerk." Tamaki chastised him. "Rin clearly had a really bad time, and she doesn't need us to remind it to her." While I agree that Kiba could have used a bit more tact in his question, his curiosity is not misplaced, Shino calmly interceded. "So far, Rin is the only person we know to come back from the dead. What about the Hokage Orochimaru revived with that forbidden jutsu?" Tamaki asked. "They don't count, since not only were they zombies, but according to official reports, they had no knowledge of what happened to them or where did they go after death," Shino explained. "Knowing with exactitude what awaits us after death is something everybody sought to know." "I'm afraid I have to disappoint you, but I don't remember anything after my death either," Rin admitted, then she smiled. "And while I appreciate your concern, you don't need to walk on eggshells around me. I already came to terms to what happened to me, and accepted my new situation." "That's something good to hear, Rin-san," Shino praised. "Okay, let's change the topic to something less grim, then." Tamaki leaned close to her, and smiled wickedly. "Given that you were Kakashi's teammate, can you tell us stuff about him when he was our age?" Rin smiled back. "Oh, plenty. What do you wish to know? Was Kakashi always late to the team meetings?" Kiba asked. Everybody eagerly awaited for the answer. "Actually no," Rin said, to everybody's surprise. "He used to be pretty diligent back then. He was never late to a meeting, and often chastised those who did." "Unbelievable. And what happened to make him change like that?" Tamaki asked. Rin sighed, as her expression darkened. "Well, Obito happened." The mood immediately grew much somber when the female medicnine mentioned her fallen teammate turned Akatsuki. "Did Kakashi tell you about him?" "No, he didn't," Shino replied. "And given the circumstances, I find understandable that he prefers not to reminisce of events regarding him." Yeah, sorry for unintentionally bringing that up, Tamaki apologized. No, it's okay. I think if I talk about it with somebody I think I'll have an easier time getting over it, Rin replied. Even if talking about a traumatic event is indeed good for the psyche, do not feel pressured to do so if you don't feel ready, Shino continued. Yeah, what he said. You owe us nothing, Kiba added. No, no. I want to do this. I need to do this, Rin said once again. You see, Kakashi back then was nothing like you described. He was always punctual, took his missions very seriously, followed the ninja code to the letter, and believed the mission was more important than your teammates. Needless to say, the Animal Squad was taken aback by such revelation. Kakashi? The same, those who abandon their teammates are trash, Kakashi? Kiba asked in disbelief. Rin nodded. Actually, that line wasn't from Kakashi, but from Obito. Obito used to believe that your teammates were more important than the mission. You see, Kakashi's father, Tsukumo Hatake, forsook a mission to save his teammates. When the repercussions of such actions were felt, everybody shunned and ostracized Tsukumo for his decision, including the very same people he saved. It was so bad, he was eventually driven to suicide. That's what made Kakashi adopt such a mindset regarding missions. What happened then? Kiba asked. During a mission in the Third War, I was captured by enemy forces. Kakashi wanted to complete the mission, while Obito wanted to save me. Eventually, Obito went to save me on his own, but was outnumbered and outmatched. He would have died there if Kakashi didn't appear to save both of us. However, we weren't safe. The enemy made the cave we were in to collapse. Kakashi tripped and fell, and he would have been crushed by an avalanche if Obito didn't push him out of the way, and took his place, Rin explained. A somber silence followed. Given their sensei's usually carefree attitude, they would have imagined that Kakashi had such a harsh background. They had to admit that the silver-haired Jonin was really good at masking his emotions. Before the cave collapsed completely, Obito had one last request, to have his left eye removed and implanted on Kakashi, who lost his own left eye on the mission. After that, Obito died. Or we thought he did, Rin finished her tale. So that's how Kakashi got his Sharingan, Tamaki commented. Yes. Obito's death affected him deeply. He believed it was his fault that he died to begin with, even if he really didn't. But given that he's part of a terrorist organization now, well, I don't think that will cheer him up much, Rin commented. I'm sure your sensei's death also affected him as well, Shino deduced. How can a man keep going after so many loved ones die like that? Kiba asked bitterly, as his mind started to think in his loved ones. When this mission is over, I'm going to tell my mom and sister how much I love them. Careful, Kiba. People who say that in stories usually end up dead, Tamaki pointed out. Yeah, but this isn't a story, this is real life, Kiba retorted, crossing his arms. You know, I never imagined Kakashi being a sensei, Rin interceded, changing the topic. Why do you say that? Tamaki asked. Well, from how he used to be when we're teens, I don't think he'd had the patience to teach. Kakashi is a genius who pretty much got everything right the first try. He might have had exceedingly high expectations of his students, and would have tossed the towel in frustration when he saw that wasn't the case, Rin told them. Well, you're not that far off, Kiba admitted. We were the first team Kakashi-sensei passed, Shino began. We don't know the exact number, but a few other teams were assigned to Kakashi-sensei before us. He tested them, found them unworthy, and sent them back to the academy. That's it, until we came and passed that test. Kiba proudly boasted. Akamaru happily barked in agreement. That sounds more like it. You three must be really skilled if you managed to pass a test from Kakashi, Rin praised them. Actually, I don't think you're following. You see, Kakashi didn't want to test our skill or strength, but our teamwork, Tamaki clarified. Rin raised an eyebrow, and a memory came to her mind. Wait, Are you talking about the bell test? Yeah. You know it already? Kiba asked. Rin nodded. Minato-sensei made us take that test as well. And how well did you do? I'm sure you passed since you became their students, but was it difficult? Tamaki asked. Did the fourth had to tie somebody to a log? Kiba asked as well, bitterly remembered that moment. Actually Kakashi got the 2 bells in less than 5 minutes, Rin stated. A deafening silence ensued as the animal squad processed Rin's words. They knew Kakashi was one of the strongest ninja Konoha had at the moment, but to do something like that, wow. And you said your sensei was the fourth? Kiba asked in disbelief, his eyes open wide. Rin giggled a bit. Minato-sensei said that he was going to go easy on us since we were newbies. Well, Obito and I were. Kakashi had been a ninja for some years already. Guess he didn't think Kakashi could be so good. Thank goodness Kakashi doesn't expect that level of skill from us, Tamaki said in relief, not realizing how lucky she was. Not that we don't give our all. Guess he knows he's the exception rather than the rule, Rin replied. Anyway, now that I told you all this, I hoped it helped you understand Kakashi a bit better. It was. I could never imagine how much suffering that man went through. Now that we're armed with this knowledge, we can give him proper support of any kind, Shino concluded, as he adjusted his shades. Good, because he's going to need it, Rin agreed. I believe that our return, and especially what happened to Obito, broke him even further. Anyway, enough to talk about Kakashi-sensei. Tell us about you. Tamaki interceded, changing the topic. Me? Well, there's not that much to say. What do you want to know? The medic Nin asked. For starters, what have you been doing since you're back among the living? I don't think we've ever seen you once, Kiba pointed out. I've been working at the hospital. I wanted a quiet and calm job away from everything so I could think about all what happened to me after my death and resurrection, and get adjusted to this new era. A lot can change in 14 years, Rin replied. Understandable. And what made you change your mind? Given that you're in a mission to a civil war, Shino asked. Rin took a deep breath, and sighed. Because Kirigakure had a big role in my death, and I need to face that. War Room Mei, her inner circle, and most of Konoha Jonin were standing around a large rectangular table with an equally large map of the Land of Water on top of it. The map had several figurines that represented several points of interests. Kirigakure was the biggest. There was also a boat figure that symbolized the ship they were all on. Alright, let's get down to business, Mei began. During these past months, the rebellion have been preparing to invade Kirigakure and end this civil war already. The invasion should have happened already, but a certain event became a major setback to my plans. AO, my spymaster and head of my intelligence network, was captured during a skirmish. AO knows almost everything about the rebellion. Our future plans, which of our bases are decoys and which are the real ones, the location of our secret hideouts, everything. As you can probably imagine, the invasion can't happen as long as AO is in the hands of the enemy, Mei concluded her explanation. Unfortunately, I don't have enough forces to liberate AO, so that's the main reason for coming to Konoha for help. So, AO defected to the rebellion? Interesting, Shursui thought. He had clashed with AO quite a few times during several skirmishes following the Third War, and wondered if he would have to fight him again. If you don't have enough troops to assault a mere prison, what hope do you have to take over a major village? Asuma asked. Other Jonin started to murmur, many of them apparently agreeing with Asuma. Mei, however, smiled at the question. Most of my forces are spread around the Land of Water, hidden, keeping on tasks vital for the rebellion in secret. If I make them come out of the shadows and join me this soon, they won't be able to work undercover again. If I do that, it has to be when we invade Kirigakure, not earlier. Besides, that way Yagura thinks that our forces are much smaller than they really are. Her explanation seemed to satisfy the Jonin's doubts about Mei's chances in the war. The rebel leader continued. This is the Crimson Citadel. Mei used a pointer to refer to a castle figurine on a small island. During the Second War it was a military outpost, but it was later converted into a prison. My spies report that Ao has been taken there for interrogation. We need to liberate him, as well as the rest of the prisoner rebels there, as soon as possible. How do you know Ao didn't spill the beans already? Kakashi asked. Like most spies and intelligence gatherers, Ao has been trained to withstand the worst forms of torture. It will take a lot of time to break him, if they break him at all, Mei replied. She clearly had a lot of faith in that man's ability to remain silent. And even if they have mind-reading jutsu, they won't work since there are protective seals carved into his head. So, what's the plan? Kurenai asked. The Crimson Citadel only has one entrance, a dock that's heavily guarded, and only opens its doors whenever a ship carrying supplies or prisoners enters or leaves the place. Unfortunately, no such ship is scheduled to arrive in a long time, so if we try to pretend we are going to bring prisoners or supplies into the prison, we'll raise suspicions, and our plan will be foiled, Mei told them. How are we going to enter, then? A Konoha Jonin asked. Mei smiled once again. That's when you guys enter. One of the reasons I contacted Konoha, and hired several specific ninja, is because they have summoning contracts of flying animals. We'll employ some of those animals to infiltrate a small team whose task will be to open the main gate. Once the mission is a success, the rest of the forces will invade the prison on small but fast boats, kill the guards, and release the prisoners. Lastly, it's imperative that news of the prison break does not reach Kirigakure. If Yagura realizes what happened, he will be waiting for us. Any questions? Mei asked, scanning the small crowd. Upon seeing no raised hand, Mei smiled once again. Good. You're dismissed. Now we'll decide which ninja will form part of the infiltration team. For security's reasons, we'll use the standard 4-man squad. Anything bigger would draw too much attention. You'll receive further information shortly. With the briefing concluded, everybody left the war room, and prepared for the incoming battle. Like with the other ship, Sakura would have loved to go to the dock and admire the vast oceanic sight, but there were two major reasons stopping them from doing that. The first one was the constant veil of mist that followed the ship everywhere, making sightseeing impossible. And the second was that dock access was heavily restricted for security reasons, forcing the pink-haired kunoichi, and nearly every Konoha ninja, to remain indoors. Fortunately, the ship had quite a few living rooms made for a comfortable stay. Going to one of them reserved for Konoha ninja, Sakura saw Ino in the one she entered, sitting on one of the cushioned benches. Ino. Sakura called her blonde friend as she walked towards her. Oh, hey, Ino replied. What's up? Nothing. I heard we're going on to our first mission soon, and decided it would be good to rest and relax a bit, in order to be at 100%, Sakura replied, as she took a seat next to Ino. You read my mind, Ino replied. Anyway, I've been meaning to ask you something. Shoot. Why did you punch that guy into the sea? What did he do? Did he insult you or something? Ino asked. You can say that. It was literally the first thing he did and, well, even with my flawless ladylike behavior, something like that can bring out the worst of me. Ino chuckled. You don't have to tell me. Anyway, what made you approach him in the first place? I wasn't that interested, but Sasuke-kun was suspicious of him. He has our age, yet we never saw him in the academy nor the Chunin exams. We did some research, and found that he started his ninja career as an ANBU. As an ANBU? Ino parroted, raising a visible eyebrow. I thought that you had to be at least a Chunin to be admitted there. My thoughts exactly. But if he's truly an ANBU, I'm afraid I won't be able to get anything out of him by simply asking, or tricking into giving me the answers I want, is not going to work, Sakura complained as she slumped a bit. I hope you don't expect me to probe his mind, do you? A very wary Ino asked. I would never dream asking you that unless it was a life or death situation, Sakura replied, but Ino remained tense. And no, this is not the case. Ino finally relaxed. Good. But you got me curious. I'll see if I can talk to this guy, just to see if he's as bad as you describe him. He's even worse, but you don't have to take my word for it, Sakura replied with a shrug. Huh? Sorry for intruding, but who are you talking about? A new voice said, making Sakura and Ino to turn at the newcomer, and saw Hinata walking towards them. Oh, hey, Hinata. Just some guy who got on Sakura's nerves, and she and Sasuke think he's up to no good, Ino quickly summarized. I see, Hinata replied as she not so much took a seat as she let herself fall on the bench, letting out a tired moan. You look exhausted. Were you training? Sakura asked. Hinata nodded. I don't know where Naruto-kun gets so much energy. Well, I do, but you know what I mean. Says he wants get promoted to Jonin as soon as possible. Let's hope he doesn't get exhausted too much. I heard we're going to launch our first attack on Kiri forces in less than a day, and we're going to need him, Ino said, as she crossed her arms over her chest. Trust me, someone who is able to exhaust Naruto has not been born yet, Hinata replied, with a tired smile. He'll be fine. Sasuke-kun is the same. He wants to do nothing but train and get stronger as soon as he can. I don't know why he needs to be so much power so soon, Sakura added, raising her arms in frustration. He'd be more happy if he learned to relax. Well, Sasuke-san lost many loved ones, Hinata looked at Ino warily. That night. It's okay, Hinata, you can say it, Ino replied. It's not like I'm going to have a meltdown if you mention that day by its name. What kind of kunoichi I would be if I had such a fragile psyche. Anyway, due to what happened to the Uchiha back then, maybe he wants to get stronger to make sure he can save the loved ones he still has, should something happen to them, Hinata explained. In a way, I feel the same. I know that I couldn't have done anything to save my father, but I want to become stronger, even if it takes me a lot of time, so I can protect my loved ones. That's a very good reason, Sakura replied, then she looked down at her lap. Guess I was among the lucky ones who didn't lose anybody important that night. Your parents are civilians, so of course nobody would want to target them, Ino pointed out. I just realized that we're going to do with Kiri what the Uchiha tried to do with Konoha, Hinata realized. Sakura and Ino stared at her in mild shock, realizing that there was some truth to her words. This made them feel a bit uneasy. But then again, it's not the same. The Mizukage such a bloodthirsty tyrant, it inspired half the ninjas of Kiri to rise against him. The Uchiha wanted to take over due having an imaginary chip on their shoulder. We're still the good guys, and we're helping the right side win the war, Sakura argued. And what if we were hired by the Mizukage to help him crush the rebellion? Ino pointed out. Sakura was taken aback by such a harsh question, but nonetheless managed to come up with what she believed was a satisfying response. Then I'm sure Hokage-sama would have turned their request down, no matter how much he was willing to pay us. Shizen-sensei said that, even if we're professionals and not a charity, Konoha and its ninja are devoted to make the world a better place, and I don't know how helping Yagura keep the hat would align with that, Sakura replied. Besides, if Hokage-sama wanted to gain favor with the Mizukage, he could have deported Zabuza-san and Haku-san back to the land of water, but he didn't do that. That's a fair point, Hinata conceded. After all, the first Hokage created the village system as a way to pave for an era of peace. And now we're helping spread that peace even further by helping the right side of this conflict to end a years-long civil war. Sakura enthusiastically declared. Let's hope you're right. I'd hate to see that, after we help them win, the rebels turn out to be worse than Yagura ever was, Ino mentioned. You're actually getting ahead of yourself. We didn't help the rebels win yet, Hinata pointed out. Sakura smirked at her. yet being the key word here. Meanwhile, in one of the ship's private training areas, Zabuza was in a sparring match against Amuri and Chojuro, the two of them against him. So far, the older swordsman was doing a good job keeping them at bay, and making it look as if fighting his two younger colleagues was a boring task. Amuri charged forward, her swords crackling with electricity, and thrust them towards Zabuza, who used his much larger blade to block them, then pushing back, using his superior strength to knock the red-headed swordswoman on her back. Somebody should have told you that direct confrontation with an enemy that surpasses you in both height and muscle is a bad idea, little girl, Zabuza sneered. Amuri snarled, baring her sharp teeth. While Zabuza was taunting Amuri, Chojuro sneaked from behind, and tried to slash Zabuza with his Hiramakari, but the moment the blade descended, Zabuza casually sidestepped, and used Chojuro's momentum against him by tripping him on his legs, making him tumble on top of the still fallen Amuri. And you, I'll give you credit for sneaking on me from behind like that. However, your silent killing would be far more effective if you didn't breathe so hard, Zabuza pointed out, as he rested his executioner's blade on his shoulders. Get away from me, Four Eyes. Amuri snarled as she pushed Chojuro away. Sorry, the bespectacled swordsman stammered. Ignoring Chojuro, Amuri's eyes focused on Zabuza once again. Let's see how well you like this. Amuri crossed her swords in front of her face in an X, producing a white electric flash. Thundersword Ninja Art, Eye of the Storm. Amuri spread her arms wide, and started to spin at a rapid speed, turning herself into an electric sharp twister, which quickly moved towards Zabuza. I killed dozens of enemies with this technique alone. Let's see how well you fare against it, demon. Amuri boasted. Zabuza wasn't impressed. The moment Amuri got close to him and was about to tear him to shreds, Zabuza instantly vanished and reappeared behind the spinning Kanochi. The taller ninja then kicked her in the back of the knees, sending Amuri back to the floor. Ayuji, she cried, unwillingly dropping her swords. Let me guess, those enemies were all cluttered and with little space to move, am I right? Zabuza asked. As you can see, that move is pretty much useless in a battle with few people and plenty of space to move. Not to mention that you could possibly harm your allies with that as well. Chojuro, meanwhile, remained locked in place, watching Zabuza dissing Amuri once again. I always thought Amuri-san was so strong, yet Zabuza-senpai is toying with her like that. What chance do I have, Ino? I can't think like that. Maisama says that I can be strong, and I'll show her faith in me is not misplaced. Chojuro thought, as he raised Hiramakari above his head, and charged once again, letting out a battle cry. Ayahewa. Zabuza turned around, and looked at the now emboldened Chojuro unamused. Making display of his uncanny speed, Zabuza vanished and reappeared centimeters away from the blue-haired swordsman, who let out a shocked yelp. Zabuza grabbed Chojuro by the neck, and raised him in the air, making him drop the Hiramakari, falling to the ground with a loud clang. Zabuza then proceeded to slam Chojuro against the ground on his back. Ow! Chojuro cried in pain. If you two are the best May has to offer, then the future of the Seven Swordsmen, as well as the rebellion, is pretty bleak, Zabuza chided, shaking his head in disappointment. Don't flaunt yourself as all that. We all saw how Maisama wiped the floor with you back in Konoha. Amuri fired back. Zabuza smirked, walked towards Amuri, and crouched before her in order to look at her in the eyes. Yet here I am, wiping the floor with you too. What does that say about you? Amuri couldn't say anything but angrily snarl at her fellow swordsman. Come on, you two, we're not done yet. I might not have much time, but I'll make sure to whip you up into shape by the time we have to invade the village. Zabuza shouted, slamming his sword into the ground for added emphasis. Watching the spar from above, on a special box, were 4 people. One of them was May, the rebel leader, admiring her newest investment. The remaining 3 were 3 of her ninja, 2 men and a woman. The first one was rather young, the same age as those who belonged to the group called Konoha 15. He had shoulder-length white hair with a light blue tint at the tips, purple eyes, and a pointy tooth sticking out of his mouth. He was wearing a black sleeveless shirt with blue striped wrist warmers and leg warmers. Next to him was a rather tall and fit girl, with long dark blue hair that fell down her back, with a long bang covering half her face. Her eyes, or at least her only visible eye, was also dark blue. Like the young man besides her, she was wearing the same type of attire, only with a Chunin flak jacket over it. Behind the two of them was an even taller man of unknown characteristics, given that his whole body was covered by a black hooded cloak, and his face was obscured by a Kirigakure Anbu mask. "So, what do you think?" May asked the others. The white-haired boy showed a toothy grin. "I did hear a lot about Zabuza-senpai, but seeing him in action is even better." "Of course you'd think that," Suigetsu, the woman replied, crossed his arms over her chest. "Let's hope Zabuza-senpai is just as good in the battlefield." "You seem to doubt him, Miyako," Suigetsu pointed out. "Zabuza-senpai already tried to depose the Mizukage once, and his plan was an utter failure." "I think we'd be better off without him," Miyako insisted. "Zabuza-chan is impulsive, yes, but also skilled. And his failure to depose the Mizukage didn't detract from his reputation, far from it," May pointed out. "Just for that, it's more than worth it to have him here. Besides the obvious fact that he has one of the 7 swords. What about you, Komori? What do you think?" Suigetsu asked the masked man, who merely moved his head to acknowledge the question, but remained silent. Suigetsu frowned. "You know, you may think that being all silent and mysterious makes you cool, but I know for a fact that everybody thinks you're a pretentious asshole. Enough chit-chat, I think it's about time for Zabuza-chan to meet you, given that you'll be under his command," May stated, as she jumped from the box, followed by the other 3. The moment the foursome landed, Zabuza turned around, and glanced at them inquisitively. May merely smiled, and started clapping. "Impressive, Zabuza-chan. I knew I did the right choice by bringing you with us," May earnestly said. Zabuza growled irritatingly. "Could you stop calling me Zabuza-chan?" "Of course not, Zabuza-chan," May replied, keeping that beautiful but unbelievably smug smile. "Anyway, now that you've already met Amuri and Chojuro, and tested their capabilities, I thought that maybe you should meet the rest of the next generation of the 7 swordsmen. This handsome young man here is Suigetsu Hozuki. Glad to meet you, Zabuza-senpai. I've always been a great admirer of your work, and hope that one day I can equate your body count." Suigetsu greeted him with one of his unnerving smiles. "Hozuki? Are you related to Mangetsu?" Zabuza asked. "Mangetsu was my brother. Most of our clan, Mangetsu included, was killed because we sided with Maesama. I'm all what's left," Suigetsu replied, though he didn't sound especially hurt or mournful. "If you're his brother, how is that you didn't inherit the Hiramakari?" Zabuza asked. "Weren't you his apprentice?" "No. Chojuro was Mangetsu's apprentice. Due his untimely demise, Chojuro's training is incomplete. Hopefully, you'll put a remedy to that," May interceded. Suigetsu was training to become a swordsman one day, but he wasn't assigned a sensei yet. "And you want me to train all these brats?" Zabuza asked, almost groaning. "By virtue of being the only swordsman who completed his training, yes," May replied with a shrug. "Anyway, this lovely young woman here is Miyako Kiui. Maesama has faith in your abilities despite your track record, so guess that I'll follow your orders," Miyako replied, not too thrilled to meet Zabuza. "And lastly, this man over here is Komori Nashi," May said, pointing at the masked man. Komori didn't say anything, just nodded. "A talkative one, huh?" Zabuza snarked. "I like those the most. So, where are the remaining 2? May looked confused. "Which remaining 2? You know, for both Samahata and my sword." I'm sure you had a backup plan in case you weren't able to get me back into the fold, Zabuza said. Oh, I was pretty sure I could get you back into the fold. I have a lot of confidence in my diplomatic skills, so preparing a replacement for you wasn't necessary. As for Same Hadawal, you know that sword is different from the others, since it's the sword who chooses its wielder, not the other way around. But I hope to have it back one day. You'll certainly need something better than what you have gathered here if you hope to kill Kisame one day. He wasn't Fuguki-sama's apprentice for nothing, Zabuza retorted. Mei smiled once again. Zabuza-chan, soon you'll see that what I've gathered here has way more to offer than you think. Later that afternoon, all Konoha ninja were summoned to one of the ship's largest rooms, which was mostly devoid of all furniture, with the exception of a small platform. Mei Terumi and some of her closest allies were on top of it. The rebel leader took a step forward, and began talking. Are all of Konoha's ninja here? It looks to me nobody's missing, Mei stated, smiling once again. Anyway, we've been talking with your commanding officers, and you're about to do your first mission working for us. Our first endeavor will be taking over the island prison named the Crimson Citadel. The plan is a simple one, but it has to be done as fast as efficiently as possible. Using the night's darkness as a cover, a team composed by 4 ninja will sneak into the prison from air. The infiltration team will proceed to disable the guards manning the dock gates, and open them. Once they're opened, the rest of our forces will board the prison, killing all the guards, and releasing all the war prisoners. One last thing, once the attack begins, they will try to send a message to the village warning them about what we're doing. Such thing can't happen, so keep your eyes open for possible birds or small boats trying to leave the prison. Your commanding officers know all the finer details of this operation, ask them to debrief you even further if you still have any doubts. Time is of essence, and we need to act as soon as possible. Meaning that the attack will take place this midnight. Naturally, such announcement caused many of the Konoha ninja to murmur among themselves, some of them even wondering if they can get ready in such short notice, while the most veteran ninja told them that they've been training for such unexpected situations like this one. Thankfully, the whispers didn't last long. The infiltration mission will be led by Yuri Ringo, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist currently serving the rebellion. Mei motioned her arm, and the younger Kunoichi took a step forward. As for the rest of her squad, can those Chunin belonging to the tactical squad, I believe that was the name, take a step forward, please? Again, more murmurs ensued as Shikamaru, Ino and Choji left the crowd and came closer to the platform. You 3? Good, Mei smiled. Amuri will explain the finer details of your mission now. You could also try to get each other acquainted a bit better. Mei then turned at the rest of the crowd. Several smaller ships should arrive soon. My men will organize you in several larger squads and tell you which ship you need to board. That's all. Good luck, and I hope all of us can make it back in one piece. The short briefing finished, the crowd dissolved as the Konoha ninjas left the room and got ready for the incoming mission. Chojuro then walked towards Mei. What do you think, Mei-sama? Do you think we can pull this off? The young swordsman asked. Mei turned at him, and smiled. I have to think we can. But something tells me that I did the right thing by asking Konoha for help. I think we're in for an spectacle. Land of Earth, undisclosed location enveloped in cloak of tailed beast chakra, Han dashed towards Kakuzu at an almost lightning-fast speed. Kakuzu then made 3 hand seals, and channeled chakra. Fire release, searing migraine. However, it wasn't Kakuzu who fired the jutsu. A monstrous masked being made of a pulsating mass of threads and tendrils opened its mouth, breathing a massive firestorm forward. Han's speed was so great that he was unable to change course, and he was engulfed by the wave of fire. However, despite the great devastation caused by the attack, when the fire and smoke dispelled, Han didn't look any worse for the wear, and resumed his charge. As Han got closer, he wound a fist back. Erupting propulsion fist. Steam started to come from his gauntlet's holes as Han delivered what it would be a devastating attack towards Kakuzu. However, the strange creature that used that fire jutsu appeared between Han and the Akatsuki, taking the brunt of the attack. Its mask shattered in contact, and the mass of tendrils and threads lost all form and shape, and fell to the ground. Damn, that's the second heart I lost to this guy, Kakuzu inwardly cursed. Besides his fire heart, he had also lost his wind heart. Now only water, lightning, and his own earth heart remained. You're strong, I'll give you that, Han admitted. That won't make me any more merciful towards you once this fight ends. Haiden chose that moment to appear from behind and tried to slash the Jinchuriki with his three-bladed scythe. However, like it happened the previous 3 times, it harmlessly bounced on the IWA ninja's thick armor. You know Haiden, it'd be great if you could stop being so absurdly useless, Kakuzu groaned. Oh, shut your mouth. It's not my fault. Who the fuck wears an armor this heavy nowadays, the Jashin priest complained. This shithead has to be as old as you are, Kakuzu. Erupting strong foot. Haiden found himself at the receiving end of what it could be easily considered the most brutal kick ever delivered. Fuckyu. Haiden screamed as he was sent flying into the air, before he crashed against a large rock. That one isn't very strong, but for some reason he refuses to stay dead, Han observed. Which wouldn't be so bad if he could remain silent for more than 10 seconds. Trust me, if I knew a way to kill him, it would be long since that man drew its last breath, a resigned Kakuzu said. Then again, you're my current target. Kakuzu made a hand seal, and his 2 remaining monsters attacked Han. The masked monsters opened their mouths, releasing a stream of water and a bolt of lightning, respectively. This forced Han to fall back, as he made several hand seals. Boil release, heat cutter. Han created a long blade of pressurized steam, and threw it forward like a javelin. The monsters jumped aside, but that's what Han expected. His true target was Kakuzu, since he knew that if he was able to take him down, then those strange beasts would go down with him. But when the monsters moved aside, Kakuzu was nowhere to be seen. Where did he dash? Earth release, Earth spear. Han turned around to see Kakuzu in front of him, his fist, now blackened, wound back. He wasn't fast enough to dodge it, and much to his shock, the punch packed enough force to crack his armor. Not letting his enemy time to breathe, Kakuzu then delivered Han a kick to his face. Han, however, managed to grab Kakuzu's foot before the attack could connect. I'm Baiawa Aek. Haiden shouted as he landed near the 2, and delivered a swipe of his scythe to the armor's cracked zone. This time, the armor gave in, and Haiden's scythe managed to slash Han's flesh. The Jinchuriki disengaged Kakuzu, and jumped backwards a few times, as he clutched his wound on one hand. Sorry, kid, but you've already lost, Kakuzu stated. Han couldn't help but chuckle. You made me bleed once, and you think you already won? You guys are sure confident. Trust me, that's all what we need, Haiden said as he licked the blood of his scythe. The Janshin cultist then transformed. His skin turned black, as white, bone-like patterns appeared across it, giving him an appearance similar to the other cultists Han fought before. Except this time, it was obvious it wasn't body paint. Haiden then cut his hand, and used his own blood to draw around him a circle with a circumscribed triangle. Kakuzu, would you kindly? Haiden asked, almost in a submissive tone. Wordlessly, Kakuzu's hand clutched Haiden's throat, and started to strangle his partner, much to Han's confusion. Han then noticed that something was very wrong. He started to feel as if somebody was strangling him as well. Han's hands instinctively flew towards his neck in a vain attempt to break free from the strangling, but he was unable to do anything. He struggled as the lack of oxygen started to take its toll. Wait a minute, his jutsu. Whatever happens to him, it happens to me too. I have to stop them. Han realized at last. But it was too late, and before the Jinchuriki could do anything, his entire world turned into darkness. Midnight came sooner than expected, and everybody was ready for the attack. But first, the infiltration team needed to do its job. Through the dark sky of the night, two large animals flew above the sea. They would have been seen if there was a moon, but thankfully, it was in its waxing crescent phase, so there was little natural light that could betray the infiltration team's presence. That's why it was so important for the attack to be carried out as soon as possible. The two animals in question were a giant hawk, and an equally large beetle. Riding the bird was Sasuke Uchiha, its summoner, and he was carrying Amuri and Shikamaru on its back as well. Shino was the one riding the giant beetle, and behind him were Ino and Choji. All six of them quickly saw the Crimson Citadel. The prison in question was a rather large military base that encompassed nearly the whole island. It was surrounded by a rather tall and thick wall, with only a single entrance in the dock. Many ninja patrolled the walls, and multiple searchlights scanned the area with powerful beams of light. However, they only scanned the surrounding water, and paid no attention to the sky. It was obvious why Mei had chosen an aerial drop. Fly closer to the southeastern wall. We'll land there, Amuri instructed Sasuke. The gates are east of the island. Don't you want me to drop you closer to the dock? Sasuke asked. Amuri shook her head. There are far too many searchlights there, and the risk of being seen is too big. All right then, Sasuke agreed. The two flying beasts headed towards the area Amuri instructed, and as expected, it was the safest zone to land. All right, let's go. Amuri said as she jumped from the bird. Shikamaru softly groaned, and followed her. Ino and Choji joined them a couple seconds later. With their job done, Sasuke and Shino returned to the rebel fleet located not far away from them. The four infiltrators, upon landing, immediately hid in a dark alley between two small buildings. Everyone accounted for. All right then, listen up. See those two towers at each side of the dock? According to our intelligence, that's where the gate switches are. We will also place a bunch of explosive notes on the towers and some sections of the walls for additional damage. Both of them need to be activated at the same time in order to open the gates, so we need to split up in two groups of two. Choji, you'll come with me. Shikamaru, Ino, you'll be the second team, Amuri stated. Actually, Shikamaru began. I believe that you should go with either me or Ino, and have the other go with Choji. The red-headed woman raised an eyebrow. And you say that because? Choji's abilities are more combat-focused, as are yours. On the other hand, Ino and I fill a supporting role better. That's why the ideal team should have one combat specialist and one support, Shikamaru reasoned. Amuri fixed a hard stare on the Nara genius. I don't like being contradicted, Pineapple Head. On the other hand, you make a good point, and given that it's your team, I'll take your word. Blondie, you come with me, and help me take the northern tower. You two can go together, and take the southern one. What do we do with the guards? Should we kill them? Choji asked. Not yet. If those manning the searchlights don't see any guards patrolling the wall, they'll get suspicious. Try to avoid confrontation until you're close to the towers. And even then, try not to cause a ruckus, Amuri advised. Then, she shot them an unnerving smile. But once the gates open, the fun will begin and you can go all out. Choji and Shikamaru laughed a bit awkwardly. Can I go with Choji instead? Ino uneasily pleaded. Nope. Enough chit-chat, we can't waste any more time, go, go, go. The group of four split in half. With Amuri and Ino taking the northern tower, and Shikamaru and Choji taking the southern one. Now on their own, Shikamaru and Choji proceeded to cover the place in explosive tags. So far, Shikamaru watched the surroundings, while Choji placed the explosive notes. While doing so, Shikamaru also learned quite a few things from the guards and the searchlights. 1. The guards were in groups of 2 or 3. Some of the groups of 3 were made of Chunin, while some Jonin made half of the groups of 2. The groups of 3 patrolled the longest sections of the wall, while the groups of 2 the shortest. Also, he noticed that the searchlights illuminated the area not currently being patrolled. Not to blind the patrollers, or to keep the least amount of area unwatched. Probably both, Shikamaru deduced. Alright, explosives placed here, let's move towards the next one. Choji whispered, then he made a hand seal. Reverse multi-size jutsu. Choji shrank to the size of a marble, allowing Shikamaru to pick him up and place him inside one of his flak jacket's pockets. Just as he did, Shikamaru heard a patrol coming his way. The lazy Nara rushed to hide behind a couple of wooden crates, which were big enough to barely cover his lithe body. Thank goodness for this jutsu. Otherwise, trying to hide somebody as big as Choji would have been nearly impossible, Shikamaru thought in relief, as he watched the guards passing by. There were 2, and one of them was a jonin. Choji brought up the idea of using transformation to turn into a pair of generic mist ninja and pass as guards, but while the idea was good, Shikamaru turned it down, since there was a chance that they were asked something, and unable to respond, their disguise would become apparent. No, they couldn't be seen. Once the guards were far enough, Shikamaru continued advancing, not as fast as he'd wish if he wanted to remain hidden. The fact that a patrol had just passed meant that he had some time before a searchlight would illuminate the area. However, upon reaching a certain point, Shikamaru found an obstacle impossible to surpass. 2 searchlights cast 2 beams of lights over the wall at specific intervals, in a way that it was impossible to avoid the light and thus being discovered. Troublesome lights, Shikamaru groaned. What's wrong? Choji asked from his pocket. We're so damn close to the tower, but this section of the wall will be nearly impossible to watch due those searchlights. And we can't disable them without alerting our presence, Shikamaru explained his shrunken teammate. Maybe we could use my size to our advantage? Even if the searchlights illuminate me, at this size the guards from the towers will think I'm a rodent or something like that, if they see me to begin with, Choji explained. Not a bad idea, but at your size, it would take you forever to cross this section, Shikamaru pointed out. Not to mention that a guard that saw you closely wouldn't mistake you for a small animal. Then what do we do? Choji asked. An idea started to form in Shikamaru's mind. The fact that we haven't been found yet means that none of those guards are censors. Censors are rare. What about it? Choji asked. Shikamaru smirked in return. Do you think that somebody will notice that one of the guards has a little stowaway inside their ninja pouch? So it will be guards themselves who will bring me to the tower. Great. Choji replied, smirking in return. But how are you going to get into the tower then? Don't worry, I'll think something, Shikamaru replied, as he took Choji from his pocket. Okay, here comes a patrol, get ready. From his hiding spot, Shikamaru waited until the guards passed him. Then, silently, Shikamaru approached the unsuspecting Kiri ninja from behind, and let Choji latch onto the guard's ninja tool pouch on his back. The guards suddenly stopped. Shikamaru's heart skipped a beat before he returned to his hiding place. Damn it, did he notice me? Shikamaru worriedly thought. Are you okay? One of the guards asked the one carrying Choji. Well, I just noticed as if somebody was trying to pick my pouch, the guard in question replied. Please do not grab your pouch, please do not grab your pouch, Shikamaru mentally begged. But there's nobody here and my pouch doesn't feel any lighter, so guess it was just my imagination, the guard replied with a shrug, as he and his partners continued their patrol. In the background, Shikamaru silently sighed in relief. When the guard passed in front of the tower, he saw something, presumably Choji, jumping out of the guard's pouch, and the guard once again complained about feeling something and successfully infiltrated the tower. Okay, got an idea, it's a bit risky, but it's the best I have, Shikamaru thought. Once the guards were out of sight, Shikamaru started to run as fast as possible while trying to remain silent. The searchlight's beam of light came dangerously close to him. The Nara then stopped, and made a hand seal. Transformation Jutsu. In a poof of smoke, Shikamaru turned into a pile of crates just as the searchlight illuminated him. Thankfully, it didn't raise any suspicions. Once the light passed, Shikamaru turned back to normal and rushed towards the tower, in order to rejoin Choji. Once they notice those crates are no longer there, or that they weren't there before, it will be too late, Shikamaru thought, mostly to try to relieve himself from the stress he was enduring. Shikamaru. Choji whispered from inside the tower. He was still in the lower floor. Good job. We haven't finished yet. We need to disable those guards and open the gate, Shikamaru reminded Choji. Yeah, but that part shouldn't be hard. We no longer need to be stealthy, and we have the element of surprise, Choji replied. So, you immobilize them, and I knock them out? Shikamaru smirked. Sounds like a plan. Meanwhile, to the north, the Kunoichi proceeded as well with their side of the mission. However, their approach wasn't as subtle as Shikamaru and Choji. I'm sensing a patrol. 2 ninja. Do you think you can take them out? Ino asked. Amiri smiled evilly, showing those scary sharp teeth. Just watch, the redhead said as she unsheathed her trusty twin swords. Remember to leave one alive. Ino reminded her. Don't sweat it, Amiri casually replied. The mist Kunoichi silently walked behind the patrolling duo. In an instant, she grabbed one of them from behind, and slashed his throat open, preventing him from shouting. His partner reacted too late. What the? We're under dash. But before he could give the alarm, Amiri slammed the pommel of one of her swords into the man's throat, rendering him mute. She then hit him in the bridge of his nose, knocking him on his back. She then proceeded to immobilize the man, who struggled against the rebel swordswoman. Come on, Blondie, I can't keep him like this for long. Amiri protested. Ino rushed towards her, and placed her 2 hands on the man's head. Mind Yokal Jutsu. Suddenly, the man stopped struggling. Amiri tentatively released him. The man then stood up, and remained there, almost as inert as an inanimate object. What did you do to him? Amiri asked, as she waved a hand in front of the hypnotized ninja, who didn't react. The Mind Yokal Jutsu pretty much turns an opponent into a puppet of mine. He won't do anything unless I order him to. I can also speak through him. Sadly, the effect isn't permanent. The stronger is the target, the shorter the jutsu will last, Ino replied. I also have access to most of his memories, so if they interrogate us, there won't be any problem. That's some killer jutsu you have there, Blondie. Not just for intelligence gathering, but you can also force somebody to commit suicide, Amiri praised. Ino shook her head. I do receive sympathetic damage from the jutsu. If my target is harmed when it's under my control, I do suffer the same harm. Lethal injuries mean I go down as well. Well, you can always force them to jump off a cliff, then undo the jutsu before they hit the ground. Easy and clean, Amiri suggested. Ino crossed her arms, and frowned. You do have a terrible mind, anyone ever tell you that? I'm afraid what I'd find if I scanned your mind. Amiri merely shrugged, not affected by Ino's critics. I like to think myself as being efficient at my job. Anyway, enough chit-chat, time is of the essence. Both of them made the same hand seal. Transformation Jutsu. Ino transformed into the ninja Amiri just killed, while Amiri herself transformed into a random Kirigakure ninja. Okay, let's go, Amiri said. The 2 disguised kunoichi and the mind-controlled ninja walked towards the tower, trying not to look suspicious. So far, whenever they crossed another patrol, or a searchlight illuminated them, no alarms were raised, so their plan was working so far. These guys have red uniforms. I always thought that Kirigakure's clothes were blue. Ino asked, while looking at the mind-controlled guard's uniform. It was. To represent water and all that. Guess that it's red now to represent blood, Amiri replied with a shrug. Well, it works to our advantage. That way, you Konoha guys won't mistake one of them for our own, or vice versa. They continued their walk in silence, though when no one was watching, they tried to hurry a bit, since Ino's mind control would end any time soon. Eventually, they managed to reach the tower without much incident. Okay, I'm going to release the jutsu, Ino said, making a hand seal. After undoing the mental link, the guard reacted as if he just woke up from a very strange dream. What? Where am I? The guard asked, looking dizzy. The answer came in the form of 2 blades piercing his gut, killing him in a couple seconds. After hiding the body, Amuri and Ino stormed the tower. Alright, stealth is no longer an issue, let's cut loose, the red-headed Kunoichi said as she rushed upstairs. Back in the southern tower, Shikamaru and Choji had already disabled the few ninja inside the tower, and were waiting for Ino to contact them, since they had to open the door at the same time. Fortunately, they didn't have to wait much. Shikamaru, Choji, are you there? They heard Ino's voice in their minds. Amuri and I have taken over the northern tower, what's the situation? Wow, that was fast, given that your tower was much farther away than ours, Shikamaru commented. On our side, Choji and I also took over the tower as well, and we're waiting for your signal. In that case, let's open the dock gates so the mission can begin, Ino replied. Don't forget the fireworks, Choji asked. Both he and Shikamaru smirked evilly. Not far away from there, but far away enough not to be seen by the searchlights, a fleet of transport boats awaited. The sea was thankfully calm, and silence filled the air, something that greatly benefited the rebels. Unfortunately, the angsty troops aboard the boats weren't as calm, as expected from somebody who was about to storm a high-security prison. Of all the rebels, none was more restless than Mei Terumi. While she was trying her best to maintain a cool and collected facade, the rebel leader was stressed. She risked a lot on this operation, and if the Konoha ninja weren't up to par, then the rebellion would end there. Then again, she didn't get far by playing it safe. Her mission was to liberate Kirigakure from Yagura and his reign of blood, not to simply survive as outlaws. The redhead woman walked towards the prow, where one of her ninja was scouting the prison with a spyglass. Nothing yet? Mei asked. I'm afraid not, Mei-sama, the scout replied, not taking his eyes from the target. I see. I thought we'd have news from them by now, Mei replied, sighing. The infiltration team just departed. It will take long to complete their mission. I think it's best not to get too impatient and dash, but the scout was interrupted by a chain of loud explosions that illuminated the night sky. Several of the watchtowers crumbled down, while at the same time the dock gates started to open. Mei and her scout watched the display with their mouths agape. Incredible, was the stunned guard's reply. Mei, however, quickly recovered, and smiled in satisfaction. I knew those Konoha ninja were good. Now is time to show them that we're just as good as well. Everybody, sail forward to the prison. A wave of cheers and shouts erupted in response to Mei's orders, and as she instructed, the fleet of boats quickly sailed towards the island prison. The chaos ensued made sure that the defenders would be unprepared to stop their arrival. Mei's boat was the first one to invade the prison, and the rebel leader herself was the first one to set foot on the island. Attack! We need to push them out of the dock. Mei commanded as she rushed to meet the first wave of defenders. Her hands flew through hand seals as she was ready to spill the first blood. Boil release, skilled mist jutsu. Mei released a cloud of burning mist from her mouth, instantly burning a trio of unfortunate defenders. The others, seeing what Mei was capable of, wisely fell back, and attacked from afar. Mei merely smirked. The end of the blood mist begins tonight, she shouted. Meanwhile, atop the highest floor of the main building inside one of the offices, was the warden. The warden had already seen and heard the rebels attack, and was getting ready to respond. At that moment, the door of his office burst open, and a shaken ninja barged in. Warden-sama. Mei and her band of criminals are attacking the prison, the ninja informed, panting heavily. I noticed. Now calm down. They caught us by surprise, but we'll show them what mistake they made coming here, the warden replied, as he picked his iconic weapon. Try to hold them as much as you can, while I go and activate our special defense mode. The guard grinned when he heard those 3 words. The rebel trash won't know what hit them. Loyalist and rebel forces clashed for the control of the dock, trading blows, kunai, shuriken and elemental ninjutsu. However, it was clear that the rebels, with the surprise factor on their side and their, for the moment, superior numbers proved to be too hard to keep contained, as more and more rebel ninja came out of the still arriving boats. Don't let them pass, cried a prison guard. They're too many, replied the other. Don't dare to let them advance a single millimeter, the first guard angrily replied. But those failed to inspire the defenders to fight with more ferocity or determination, as the rebel Konoha alliance soon broke through the defenders' line, forcing them to fall back, and taking over the dock. Cheers soon ensued. Mei-sama, they're retreating to the innermost zones of the prison, Chojuro noted. Just as expected, she then turned towards her army. This isn't over, far from it. Now we will be forced to split and fight on several fronts, but I believe we can do it. 5th Division, secure the dock and start setting up an infirmary. 2nd Division, to the armory. 3rd and 4th Divisions, to the barracks. Everybody else, with me to the prison blocks. Meanwhile, under the main building cluster, the warden reached his destination, a small, empty room, with a complex seal pattern drawn on the wall in front of the door. He placed his hand in the exact center of the pattern, and sent a pulse of chakra. The seal started to glow with a blue light. The warden smirked as chains of seals started to glow, leaving the room and spreading through the whole prison. Let's see how much you like these, you rebel scum, the warden said as he left the room, ready to meet those daring enough to storm his prison. Befitting their role, Kurenai's assault squad was leading the charge against one of the points of interest Mei had deemed a priority, the barracks, where most of the ninja who guarded the prison lived and slept. Accompanying them was also Miyako, one of Mei's best swordfighters, and hopeful for the new 7 swordsmen of the mist. Taking over it would provide an additional foothold for the rebel forces. Of course, the loyalist Kiri ninja weren't going to surrender it without a fight, and a large contingent of them rushed to meet the rebel forces midway. So, the rebel scum has brought some Konoha trash in a pitiful attempt to bolster their strength? Pathetic, a masked Anbu Kiri ninja sneered, as he unsheathed his katana. Kill them all. One of them made a hand seal. Water release, hidden in the mist jutsu. Soon, a thick mist formed, covering the battlefield. The rebels stuck to each other, expecting the enemy to resort to a silent attack. I'll take care of this, Naruto said as he started to make hand seals. Wing release, cyclone vortex. The Jinchuriki cast his hands forward one over the other, and a horizontal tornado shot from them, dispelling the mist. Keep the mist active, the same Anbu as before ordered, and other 2 Kiri ninja proceeded to recast the mist jutsu. Somebody kill that blonde brat. He's a wind release user. Several Umbu leaped into the air, and unleashed a barrage of shuriken and kunai at the blonde. Hinata appeared just in front of him. Naruto-kun, stay behind me, Hinata asked, as she activated her Byakugan. Protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Huh. That's new, Naruto thought, not recognizing the jutsu's name. Hinata started to move her palms forward in a pushing manner, so fast they became blurry, releasing thin streams of chakra from the palms of her hands, deflecting every one of the steel projectiles that were falling at them. Whoa, amazing jutsu, Hinata Heim, Naruto praised. Thank you. I created it because I realized that, with the heavenly spin, I can only protect myself, and I can hurt my friends and allies if they're too close, Hinata explained. Good thinking, Hinata-san, Haku praised as well. He then started to make hand seals. But you aren't the only one with something new to show. Ice release, Ice Dragon Crystal Blast. Haku made the same hand motion Naruto did a few seconds ago, but instead of wind, he created a large, serpentine dragon made of ice, which flew at the cluster of enemy Kiri ninja, letting out a roar. The dragon then crashed headfirst into them, exploding into multiple sharp icicles, which seriously injured many of them. And that one has ice release? I thought that bloodline was extinct, an enemy ninja cried, as he removed an ice shard from his arm. Don't stay like that looking like idiots. Counterattack already, the head ANBU ordered. The loyalist Kiri ninja started to make hand seals of their own, as the rebels prepared for the incoming barrage of attacks. Water release, water gun. Water release, wild water wave. Several watery projectiles and waves flied at the rebel group, merging into a massive, chaotic water torrent. Counter that quickly. Miyako ordered. This time, it was Kurenai and Haku who took a step forward, as both started to make hand seals as fast as they could. Ice release, ice barrier. Earth release, earth-style wall. A large wall of stone erected behind a smaller wall of ice. The wall of ice was broken by the incoming barrage, but the stone wall successfully absorbed them without breaking. At least for the time being. Thank Kami you're an earth release user, Miyako told Kurenai. Are there many more among you? I'm afraid not, Kurenai replied. Earth affinity is rare in Konoha. Most of them there have fire affinity. Yet none of your students are, as I can see, Miyako pointed out. She then heard something, and turned around, her katana in front of her. Watch out, I think there are some ANBU hidden in the mist ready to strike us. Hinata, can you see them? Kurenai asked. I'm trying, but this mist is laced with chakra, and it's interfering with my Byakugan. Hinata replied, as she forced her eyesight as much as possible. But the chakra is more concentrated in many points around us, I think that's them. The whistling sound of several kunai flying at them filled the air, but so far, nobody reported being hit. Yet everybody had the feeling that they did miss on purpose. And, indeed, Kurenai managed to see one of the kunai embedded into the ground, and the Jonin's eyes widened in shock. Explosive notes. Take cover, the Genjutsu mistress warned. Everybody fell back as explosions surrounded the battlefield, sending rebel ninja flying into the air, and briefly dispelling the mist before it reformed itself again. Seconds later, it was followed by the sound of blades clashing, and people crying in pain. Damn it, they used the explosions to scatter us and kill us one by one. Miyako cursed as she stood back on her feet. Her acute hearing picked up somebody sneaking behind her. An ally wouldn't do that. Turning around, she raised her katana in return just in time to block a swipe from an enemy Kiri ninja. The two of them struggled a bit, until the blue-haired woman forced him back with a kick to the gut. She gripped her katana tightly as she delivered her counterattack. Water release, razor stream. She swung her blade while she moved at the enemy ninja, who jumped back further, avoiding the slash by mere centimeters. He smirked at her for missing, but soon he felt a sharp pain crossing his body, and a bleeding scar formed across his chest. How? The surprised ninja asked. A sharp, condensed blade of water cast through my sword, so thin it's invisible to the eye, but any less lethal, the blue-haired girl explained, before slashing his throat. Did knowing that make your death any better? Meanwhile, Kurenai's team was also fighting against a group formed of standard prison guards and masked ANBU that had them surrounded. Give up, you're outnumbered, an ANBU taunted Therm. Naruto smirked in return, as he made a hand seal. You think so? Shadow Clone Jutsu. An army of orange and green-clad blondes emerged from thin air, pushing the Kiri ninja backwards, as they engaged in combat, but not without retaliating with their kunai, shuriken and mostly water jutsu. Good one, Naruto. Everybody, keep pushing forward. Kurenai shouted as she placed a couple enemy Kiri ninja under a genjutsu. Then, that moment, several circular ceiling patterns started to appear all around the prison. The patterns were black at first, but they started to glow with a blue light. "What's this? A trap?" Haku asked, taking a step back. "Probably some sort of defensive measure. Stay alert," Kurenai warned. Naruto, however, opened his eyes wide upon recognizing some of the seals. "Wait a minute, those are Uzumaki seals," Naruto indignantly pointed out. The seals produced multiple smoke explosions, which dispelled quickly, revealing something the rebels weren't expecting. Across the battlefield, multiple metallic golems had appeared. While not as large as the one summoned by Jirobo, they still towered over any normal human. Like Jirobo's golem, they also had a stocky build, with massive upper body and shoulders, long arms ending in massive, gauntlet-like forearms, a small head with a V-shaped visor, a small but armored midsection, and short legs ended in massive boot-like feet. They were covered in red plating, with multiple ceiling patterns carved around their bodies. Their heads had a small gray metal plate with Kirigakure's symbol, as if they were wearing forehead protectors. "Ha!" The warden activated the Chakra War Golems. "You're so screwed," an enemy Kiri ninja laughed. The two nearest golems identified Team Kurenai and Miyako as enemies, and stomped towards them. The seal on their bodies, they are also Uzumaki seals. Naruto realized in shock, but also in anger. It seems that Kiri didn't return as empty-handed from the invasion of Uzushiogakure as we thought, Kurenai bitterly said. "Anyway, we haven't been ordered to retreat, so keep fighting." "I plan to," Naruto stated as he started to form a Rasengan in his hands. "I'm going to teach those assholes to use stolen knowledge from my clan." Once complete, Naruto rushed towards the nearest golem, and smashed the orb of chakra against its chest. Rasengan. The sphere of chakra exploded, but rather than shatter the golem to tiny pieces, some seals on the mechanical construct started to glow, and the golem began to absorb the chakra of Naruto's attack, much to the blonde's bewilderment. "The hell?" an indignant Naruto asked, and jumped back before the golem could smash him to pulp. The golem used the attack to empower itself. Hinata noticed. "Don't use ninjutsu, or you'll make them stronger." "Then what are we supposed to do?" "Those things are made of metal," Haku pointed out. "We'll do what we can, Haku." "Hinata, see if you can find a weak spot," Kurenai asked. "Maybe we should attack the articulations." "Those parts can't be armored if they have to move," Miyako deduced. "Alright, I don't think we'll need it so soon, but time to ask for reinforcements." Naruto bit his thumb, and made 5 hand seals, before slamming his hand into the ground. Summoning Jutsu. Naruto summoned a huge, aquamarine toad with yellow eyes and a green back. His only piece of clothing was an orange sash around his stomach. He was also carrying 2 katanas to his back. "Hi there, Naruto. What can I do for you?" the sword-fighting toad asked. "Gamma Hero, I need you to help us deal with those annoying golems, as well as the Kiri ninjas dressed in red. Can I count on you?" Naruto asked. "Sure," the toad replied as he unsheathed his katanas. Let the fun begin. With Naruto standing on his head, Gamma Hero jumped into the battlefield, just in front of Naruto's friends and allies, creating a shockwave that knocked those near him back, and started to deliver multiple swipes at the prison defenders. "Golems, fire upon that creature," an ANBU ordered. The few golems present cast one hand towards the large toad. A hole opened in their palms, releasing a stream of fire from it. Gamma Hero was forced to step back. "Ouch! Ouch! It burns," the large toad complained. "Don't worry, I'll help you," Naruto said as he started making hand seals. Water release, water gun. Naruto fired several water missiles at the golems from his mouth, reducing some of the fire. Following Naruto's example, Miyako rushed forward while making hand seals. Water release, water formation wall. The blue-haired Kunoichi expelled a huge wave of water from her mouth, countering a couple of the golem's flamethrowers. Other Kiri rebels followed her example, and did as well, saving the giant toad. "Thank you," Gamahiro replied, as he slashed a nearby golem in half with one swing of his massive katanas. "The toad can clear the path for us. We must defend him from the enemy attacks," Miyako ordered. "Right away, ma'am," several Kiri rebels replied. Not far away from there, Kakashi's animal squad, alongside Rin, were fighting against a group of enemy Kiri ninja, with neither side pushing the other back. Aburame's secret art, Swarm Spear. Shino extended his arm forward, and from his sleeve shot a spear made of bugs compressed together in a tight formation. The spear pierced a Kiri ninja, who vanished in a cloud of smoke. "A shadow clone," Shino pointed out. "Some of them must be using them to bolster their numbers. In that case, we should find those who create shadow clones and take them out. They should be the Jonin," Tamaki deduced. "Good idea. Why don't you take Kiba and Shino go and try to find them?" Kakashi suggested. "I'll stay here with Rin." Rin stared at Kakashi disapprovingly. "Kakashi, you don't have to be afraid to leave my side. Even if this is a war, I can take care of myself. It won't be a repeat of the last time." "Oh, I don't do it for that, Rin. I don't think these three need me to hold their hand all the time, right? They're old enough to do some dangerous tasks without their old sensei," Kakashi jovially replied, before turning at his students. "Now go, I'll create an opening." Rin continued staring at Kakashi with worried eyes. Certainly, there were a lot of issues that needed to be solved. Meanwhile, in another part of the island prison, Shizen's medical squad was acting as support of the rebel division tasked with taking the armory. They mostly stayed behind the front line healing the injured, while Sasuke and other ninja protected them. And just like it happened before, the prison guards got unexpected reinforcements in the form of chakra golems, who were making a number on the rebel forces. "Alright, done. You're good to go. Give them hell," Sakura told a Kiri rebel she just healed. "I will." "Thank you, Medic-san," the rebel gratefully replied as he returned to the battlefield. "Unless we find a way to get rid of those annoying chakra-absorbing golems, we're not going to last long," Suigetsu complained, as he dodged a massive metallic fist from one of those mechanical monsters. And to prove Suigetsu's words true, one of the golems managed to break the rebels' lines and stomped towards the medic Nin, busy healing the wounded. Fortunately for them, Sasuke cut his path, and forced the golem to engage him in a fight. "Good one, Sasuke-kun," Sakura praised. However, the Uchiha didn't feel he was doing any good. Ninjutsu, his specialty, was out of the equation. Genjutsu was useless on a mechanical being, even if it had chakra, and his sword alone failed to make any dent on that metallic shell. "Sakura, I'm not doing that good," Sasuke admitted, as he dodged a fist slam. "Maybe your fighting style might be better suited to deal with this thing." "You think so?" Sakura asked. If Sasuke was having trouble defeating an enemy, then what chances did she have? But then again, she couldn't deny his request of help. "Alright then, here I come." "Either that, or I'll have to use the Mangekyo Sharingan," Sasuke bitterly thought. The moment Sakura was at close-quarter range, the golem tried to squash her with its fists, but the Pinkette gracefully dodged them with a surprising show of speed, and jumped as she reared her fist back. Shinaro. The effect was instant. The moment Sakura's fist connected with the golem, it made a huge dent on its chest plate, before sending it flying back a few meters. Just as I expected. These golems aren't meant to deal with overwhelming physical force. "Sakura, you must join the front lines and help them out," Sasuke told her. "But what about the wounded?" "I'm a medic Nin," Sakura replied. "Don't worry, we can go on without you. Make sure those golems don't cause more wounded among our troops," Shizun told her. Sakura nodded. Alright then, take care. And the Pinkette joined Sasuke in the battlefield. While the bulk of the rebel army fought on the ground, Amuri and Asuma's tactical squad remained in the walls, in order to disable the island's defenses, such as the searchlights and the kunai launchers. You know, we could take a few of these for the village, Ino commented, as she inspected one of the captured kunai launchers. Seal it inside a scroll if you wish, but don't waste much time on that. Amuri told her, while she engaged on a couple enemy Kiri ninja, who suddenly stopped moving. The red-headed girl noticed that their shadows were linked to Shikamaru's. After quickly dispatching them, she turned at the Nara, and said, "Thanks, but it's not as fun if they don't move or defend themselves." "Hey, look at that. What's going on?" Ino asked, noticing the chakra golems popping up across the battlefield. "What are those things?" Choji asked. "I don't know, but guess we're going to find out real soon," Shikamaru pointed out as he stepped back, as two chakra golems had just materialized in front of them. "Amuri?" Ino asked, a question unsaid but implicit. "First time I see these things," the swordswoman said as she also cautiously stepped back. "That armor looks strong," Shikamaru observed. "There's no armor my thunderfangs can cut through," Amuri boasted as she channeled lightning chakra through her trusty blades, making them crackle. "Cover me. I'll take them out." Amuri leaped at the closest golem, and tried to pierce its armor. A seal on the golem's plate glowed, and the lightning of Amuri's swords was absorbed, robbing them of their cutting power. "What?" she asked in shock. "So they can absorb chakra too. Boy, this is all kinds of troublesome," Shikamaru groaned. "Let's try physical attacks then." "Choji, your turn," Ino told the Akimichi heir. Choji nodded and clasped his hands together. Partial multi-size jutsu. Both of Choji's arms suddenly grew, as he reared one of them back, before delivering a devastating punch to the closest golem. The machine, however, managed to cling to the Akimichi's fist. He then proceeded to pound it with his other hand. Shikamaru made a hand seal. "Let's take care of the other." Shadow imitation jutsu. Shikamaru easily bound the other golem, but soon he realized how strong the metallic construct was, forcing the Nara to spend large amounts of chakra to keep him in place. "Damn! I don't think I can hold him for too long," Shikamaru warned. "Make it walk to the edge of the wall. Let's toss it into the water," Ino suggested. Shikamaru nodded, and forced the golem to do as Ino said. When the mechanical creature was in the edge, the two kunoichi delivered a flying kick each to the chest, knocking it over the wall, before falling to the sea. Following his team's example, Choji also tossed the golem clinging his fist into the ocean. Their enemies defeated, Ino looked at the battlefield below her, and noticed the amount of golems that had appeared, and were giving the rebel forces a hard time. "I don't think we'll be able to bring all the remaining ones here and toss them into the sea," Ino commented. "No, but we can't give up. Come on. We need to clear this section of the wall if we want to increase our chances of victory," Amuri shouted, as she led the tactical squad forward. Mei herself was leading the offensive against the main prison block. Going with her was Guy's close combat squad, Zabuza and Chojuro. Due to being the most numerous division, as well as the one with the most heavy hitters, they had the least problems making way through the enemy lines. That's not to say that they didn't had any trouble the moment the golems started to appear all around the prison. "The hell? They absorbed my jutsu," an enraged Mei shouted. "My sword isn't doing as good against them either," Zabuza snarled. "And I doubt any of my assassination techniques may work on them either." Guy, however, was feeling rather excited at such prospect. "So, the enemy is immune to ninjutsu? Alright then, good thing the youth squad is here. Niji, Lee, Tenten, focus on the golems. Let everybody else deal with the human opponents," the green-clad Jonin ordered. "Show them the power of your youth." The three of them nodded, and in perfect synchronization, they crossed their arms in front of their face, before spreading it downwards, releasing 3 overlapping bursts of chakra. Gate of opening, open. Gate of healing, open. Gate of life, open. Niji and Lee slipped into their usual fighting stances, while Tenten unsealed a pair of katanas from a small sealing scroll. Go! Lee charged at a nearby golem, and started to throw punches and kicks at an extremely quick speed, not letting the mechanical construct counterattack and forcing it to step back. Niji did the same, with quick palm strikes that, even if it couldn't disable his opponent like a human, still managed to produce a similar effect. Tenten started to channel an ungodly amount of chakra through her swords, which started to shine with a radiant blue glow, so bright, it was almost like looking directly into the sun. The ensuing aura made the swords look much longer and thicker than they were. 2 golems stomped towards the dango-haired kunoichi. Tenten smirked, as she leaped above the mechanical monsters. Strong sword, armor splitter. Tenten made 2 diagonal slashes forming an X, before falling behind the golems. At first, it looked like it didn't have any effect, but after a couple seconds, the slices made themselves known, and the golems fell apart. Good work, you 3. Keep destroying the golems, and the prison will be ours. Mei cheered, as she engaged a couple of enemy Kiri ninja. Suddenly, the gates of the main building opened, and more guards and golems poured from them. However, they made a hallway in the middle, as if somebody of utmost importance was about to appear. The warden is here, a Kiri ninja shouted. The warden? Mei asked. Good, if we take him out, we'll be much closer to winning. Taking me out? While I admit that you're a strong kunoichi, Mei Terumi, I find that unlikely, the warden said, as he stepped out of the gates. The battle came to a halt. Mei, Zabuza, and Chojuro were frozen in shock when they saw the warden. A tall man, with a brown mustache and a beard, wearing a cap over his head, and a dark brown poncho over the typical Kiri swordsman attire. He was holding a strange weapon that appeared to be an axe linked by a chain to a hammer. Jinin Akabino, Mei said, astonished. You are the warden? Hello to you too, Mei-san. Zabuza-san, I'm not surprised to see you here. Come to finish what you started all those years ago? Jinin asked, making Zabuza to grip his sword tighter. Jinin's eyes then rested on Chojuro. I don't know who you are, but I see you have the Hiramakari. It's sad to see so many swordsmen turning on their village. What are you doing here? Being a warden is certainly a job below your capabilities, Mei pointed out. I spoke against Mizukichi-sama's regime and way of ruling the village. He thinks I can't be trusted, so he sent me here. But I'll show him that I'm as loyal to Kirigakure as anybody else, Jinin replied. If you disapprove of Yagura, why are you still loyal to him? Mei asked, taking a step forward. I know you, Jinin-san. You're an heroic and honorable man, why are you still loyal to somebody so corrupt? Because it's our duty as a ninja to remain obedient to our superiors. If not, chaos and anarchy will ensue. It's not my place, nor anybody else's, to judge the actions of our Kage, Jinin retorted. Tell me, Mei-san, in case you succeed in your endeavor and become the new Mizukichi, will you encourage people who don't support you and your ways to wage another civil war against you? It's not the same thing. Yagura's reign of terror needs to end. People sees us as nothing but bloodthirsty murderers. It might not look like it now, but I'm doing this to save lives. Mei protested. Sure, tell that to yourself. Why don't you dash? But Jinin's question was left hanging when he noticed a certain green-clad jonin. You're alive. No, it can't be. No, wait, you're not him. His son, perhaps? Guy took a step forward as well. Yes, I am Mato Guy, son of Mato Dai. It seems you remember my father. Hard to forget the man who slaughtered the 7 swordsmen on his own. You have no idea what we had to do in order to silence the rumors that the pride and joy of our village had been defeated by a mere genin, Jinin bitterly said. Did you come here to finish what your father started? I came here because the rebels hired Konoha to help them in their campaign. Regardless of what happened in the past, I bear no ill will towards you, Guy sincerely said. Jinin-san, please, Mei begged once again. Enough, Jinin firmly stated, putting an end to the conversation. You and your followers are traitors to Kirigakure, and the punishment for treason is death. Everybody, attack. Zabuza, Chojuro, Mei took a step backwards. I think you two should be the ones to deal with Jinin. Be careful, he's a hardened veteran who fought in the Third War. Zabuza and Chojuro took a step forward. The former looked confident, the latter not so much. Ninja from both sides left the three swordsmen some space to fight unmolested. Zabuza and Jinin stared at each other defiantly, while Chojuro attempted to hide behind Zabuza's back. You look good, Zabuza-san. It's true what they said? Were you in Konoha all these years? Jinin asked. Not by choice, the masked swordsman replied, as he rested his sword on his shoulders. But that's irrelevant now. Once the rebellion triumphs, I'll be closer than ever to realize my ambition of becoming Mizukage. You were always way too above your head, Zabuza-san. Youth these days, Jinin then looked at the trembling Chojuro. What about you, boy? What's your story? Chojuro stammered, before gathering some courage to speak up. I fight under Mei-sama to end the blood mist. You must think you're so noble, destabilizing a ninja village so our enemies can take us out easier. But that won't happen under my watch, you hear that? Jinin shouted, as he charged at the duo. Zabuza and Chojuro adopted fighting stances. The fight of the swordsmen was about to begin. Omake, Sai's secret. The fourth ninja war had taken a turn for the darkest. Despite Madara and Obito not capturing the last two remaining Jinchuriki, Naruto and Killer Bee, they still managed to recreate the 10 tails. The beast's power was so great, not even the whole ninja alliance was able to deal any lasting damage. This is hopeless. Sakura cried. No matter what we do, that monster just shrugs it off. There's no such thing as an invincible foe. That thing must have a weakness. We need to find it and exploit it, Sasuke replied. Yes, we can't give up now. There's too much at stake. Naruto said. If we did, all the people who died in this war would have died for nothing. Hinata sadly said. That sounds pretty nice, but what can we do? That monster will kill us all. Sakura shouted. I believe I can be of help, a new voice said. Naruto turned around, and saw the ex-Root agent, Sai, smiling as if the end of the world wasn't about to happen. You? No offense, Sai, but I don't think you have enough power to tip the balance in our favor, Naruto dubiously said. Actually, I believe do. I have a secret power I haven't used yet, but I don't think I can keep holding it back anymore, given the circumstances, Sai said, before creating a giant bird out of ink, jumping on top of it, and ordering it to fly towards the 10 tails. Sai, wait! Naruto cried. That idiot is going to get himself killed, Sakura deadpanned. Meanwhile, Madara and Obito looked at Sai, flying at them alone. The zombified ninja smirked, amused. Look at that, Obito. A single insect think it can take out a god, Madara said. Obito chuckled. Let him try to harm the 10 tails. This is going to be fun. When he was over the head, Sai jumped off of the ink bird, and delivered a single punch to the 10-tailed abomination. That punch was all what he needed. The punch was so powerful, I created a shockwave that shattered the ground and rocks around it, generating a loud booming noise. The 10 tails cried in pain, before it fell down to the ground, motionless and lifeless. Everybody stared at the scene with wide-open eyes and mouths opened agape, as their brains tried to understand what their eyes just saw. The 10 tails sits dead. Obito said in shock. That guy killed it in one punch. Who are you? Madara said, experiencing fear for the first time in decades. People call me Sai, but it's not my real name. Well, it's more like a diminutive of my real name. Sai then pulled out his hair, which happened to be a wig, revealing a shiny bald head underneath. He tore off his Konoha uniform, revealing that he was wearing a yellow jumpsuit, red gloves and boots, and a white cape that billowed dramatically despite the lack of wind. Saitama. 1punch, somebody cried in the background, as an epic guitar riff began to play. Saitama then happily ran towards the amazed and terrified Obito and Madara, both of them knowing that this would be their end. I hate crossovers so much, Madara muttered. In front of the secondary prison blocks, Shisui Uchiha was leading a small squad in order to liberate it, since the prisoners would make for great reinforcements. At least those who were rebels or dissenters. He already had in mind all the criminals that would claim to be political prisoners just for the excuse to be free. Turns out, despite the attack, no guard had left the secondary blocks unprotected in order to repel the invasion force. Of course, Shisui was going to prove that quality trumped quantity any time of day. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Water release, Water Gun. Shisui breathed a huge fireball at a group of guards, while they countered with a volley of watery projectiles, clashing in the middle, cancelling each other out and creating a cloud of steam. Just as Shisui had expected. Without giving the guards time to react, Shisui unsheathed his tanto and silently dashed towards his opponents. However, he soon found himself being pelted by shuriken, thrown with impressive aim even in the middle of the cloud of steam. What the one-eyed Uchiha asked as he deflected the steel stars with his weapon. They must have a sensor among them. Watch out, one of his ninja warned him. If they can sense me, then there's no point in stealth. I'll have to take them head-on. Shisui decided as he charged forward. As Shisui charged, he also heard a second set of quick steps running parallel towards him, as a shadow blurred through the dispelling steam. Another one to your right. Watch out, an enemy ninja warned. Shisui smirked. Found the sensor. However, said sensor wasn't alone, as two more ninja were protecting the one he deduced was the sensor. One of them unsheathed a katana and lunged at the one-eyed Uchiha while the other remained close to him. So, that traitorous whore got you of all people to help her with her temper tantrum? The nerve, the red-clad ninja scoffed as he delivered vicious swings at Shisui. Why the hate? My squad usually has the lowest body count. Did you lose a loved one to my blade or something? The Uchiha calmly asked. You humiliated us by letting your defeated enemies get away. But you won't insult us any longer, the Kiri loyalist angrily replied. Wait, Yuri angry over the fact that I spared your comrades? You guys have issues, Shisui replied. Dark Mirror Clone Jutsu. Suddenly, clones of the Kirigakure loyalists appeared alongside the originals, their skin and clothes having a dark blue tint that set them apart from the originals, which drew their weapons, and attacked them. Some of them were caught by surprise. Arg! What the hell is this? Shisui took no time to notice that the jutsu had been cast by a masked rebel Kiri wearing a dark blue long cloak. The masked ninja swiftly attacked all the enemies fighting their dark replicas, and Shisui did the same. In no time, the block entrance was secured. Alright, entrance cleared, go inside and release all the rebel prisoners. Shisui ordered. All men under his command nodded, and followed him inside. Good work out there. That's quite the jutsu, Shisui praised the masked ninja. Thanks. Unfortunately, it only works on small groups, the masked ninja replied. Hey, it get the job done. I'm Shisui Uchiha, by the way, Shisui introduced himself. Kumori Nashi, the man said. Let's talk later, we have comrades to free. Forget about the humans, keep firing on that giant toad, Akiri Anbu commanded. Given the damage it was causing, most of Kiri's forces were concentrating their fire on Gamahiro. While arriving at the barracks didn't prove to be too difficult, taking them was a different endeavor. The building was heavily fortified, as well as defended with several kunai launchers that sprayed the attackers with constant rains of kunai. The golems kept aiming their flamethrowers at Gamahiro as well, and while the rebel ninjas tired to counter them with their water ninjutsu, the Kiri loyalists targeted them instead, keeping them busy. Other ninjas, having identified Naruto as the one who summoned the creature, decided to take the fight to him directly. Wind release, wind wall. A tornado surrounded Naruto, which blocked the kunai, shuriken and ninjutsu a trio of Kiri ninja had thrown at him. Ouch! Watch out with what you do there, Naruto. Gamahiro protested. Damn it, I forgot I wasn't on the ground. I have to be careful with my attacks or I can hurt Gamahiro, the blonde thought. Sorry. Force of habit. On the ground, the rest of Team Kurenai and Miyako tried their best to protect Gamahiro from the enemy Kiri ninja and the golems. One of them aimed its hand cannon at her and released a torrent of flames. Heavenly spin. Hinata turned herself into a spinning dome of blue chakra, deflecting the stream of fire. Haku took a step forward and made several hand seals. Water release, water gun. The ice ninja expelled multiple watery projectiles at the stream of flames, slowly pushing it back. Miyako rushed forward, seeing it as the perfect opening to attack. The mobile parts have to be unarmored, and thus vulnerable to my blade. They have to. She exclaimed as she leaped into the air, katana above her head. But when she came down and delivered a vertical slash, her hit was parried by another sword. What? Much to her shock, a blade had appeared on the golem's left hand, blocking the blue-haired kunoichi strike, before she was pushed backwards by the mechanical beast. Ice release, 1,000 needles of death. Multiple icicles rained from above over the golem, thought not randomly, as they embedded themselves into the articulations and other unarmored spots. The golem started to shake erratically as it tried and failed to move. Sparks of chakra started to jump from its body as it malfunctioned. Good work, Haku. This should put it down. Miyako said as she tossed a bunch of kunai with explosive notes attached to them. Several explosions later, the golem was down. Good one. Let's see if we can repeat the process with the other golems, Kurenai said. However, a new information about the enemy was about to be known, much to a certain kunoichi's concern. Hey, somebody just told me that Meisama's group is facing the warden who is nobody but Jinin Akabino himself, a Kiri ninja shouted out loud. What? Miyako replied just as louder. Then, she turned at Kurenai. Kurenai-san, I'm sorry, but if that's true, I need to go there. I know you're an aspiring swordsman, but isn't somebody like Jinin a bit too much for you? Kurenai questioned. Me alone, sure. But I won't be alone. I need to take part in that fight so when we have his sword in our power, Meisama will deem me worthy of inheriting it, Miyako replied. So you're putting your own ambition over the success of the mission? Kurenai disapprovingly asked. If you think that my presence here will make a difference, or I can do something nobody else can, then I'll stay, the blue-haired girl replied. Kurenai was forced to admit that, truth be told, the Kiri kunoichi leaving wouldn't change the course of the battle too much. Alright then, I guess we'll manage without you. Good luck, Kurenai told her. Miyako smiled at her. Good luck to you too, and take care. And thus, the blue-haired rebel dashed towards the entrance of the main prison block. And in the aforementioned main prison block, the three swordsmen of the mist were about to begin their private duel. Let's get rid of the distraction first. You're in, kid. Jinin shouted as he dashed towards Chojuro, helmet splitter in hand. Chojuro yelped and held his sword in a defensive position. Zabuza's eyes shot open upon realizing what the blue-haired teen was planning to do. Watch out, brat. That sword is not like the others. Don't dash. But it was too late. The moment the axe half of the helmet splitter came down, Chojuro raised the Hiramakiri to parry it. Jinan smirked, and used the hammer half of his weapon to slam into the backside of the axe, overpowering Chojuro's defenses. It didn't break Hiramakiri, but it managed to blow it out of Chojuro's hands, and cause him some damage in the forearms. My sword can break through any defenses. Blocking or parrying is useless. Jinan boasted, as he prepared to attack the downed Chojuro. Now die, traitor. Fortunately for Chojuro, his death was delayed when Zabuza tossed the executioner's blade at the older swordsman, which forced him to parry it. In a second, Zabuza closed the gap and retrieved his sword, which he used to deliver a series of swipes, which Jinan dodged as he jumped backwards, but much to his chagrin, the size of Zabuza's sword gave it a lot of range. Your sword might be the ultimate offense, but it lacks in defense, Zabuza said as he continued attacking. Brat, kill him now that he's wide open. Alright. Chojuro stammered as he recovered the Hiramakiri and rushed towards the struggling Jinan. Gripping the two handles of his blade, Chojuro delivered an horizontal slash that cut the senior swordsman in two. Yes. What? Unfortunately, Jinan disappeared in a cloud of smoke, leaving a cleaved log behind. Not bad, definitely not bad, Jinan said from behind them. It's about time for you to see what you're up against. Blunt sword ninja art, Earthbreaker. Jinan slammed the hammer half of the helmet splitter into the ground, shattering it, creating multiple quakes and sending a wave of rock and pebbles against the rebel swordsman. Chojuro quickly stepped in front of Zabuza, raising his sword in a defensive position. Hiramakiri, release. Chojuro's sword was engulfed by a cloak of glowing blue chakra, which expanded and took the shape of a shield. Said shield managed to absorb the impact of the rocks and pebbles aimed at them. Zabuza smirked under his mask. Not bad, kid. Seems that you're at least aware of some of your sword's abilities, even if you're ignorant of the others. Thanks, the bespectacled ninja asked, a bit confused. Zabuza suddenly grabbed Chojuro by the shoulder and pushed him aside, while he himself jumped in the opposite direction, narrowly avoiding Jinan's swing. God damn it, brat, one compliment, and you get so distracted he almost kills you. Zabuza angrily groaned. This is why I never say nice things. Meanwhile, not far from there, Mei spared a glance to check how their duel was going on, and worry spread through her face as she saw that Jinan was proving to be a hard nut to crack. She was tempted to lend them a hand, but in the end, it wouldn't be a good idea. If she, a non-swordsman, disrupted their duel, then the enemy would aid Jinan in return, making the task of taking him down much harder. There was also the fact that the seven swordsmen had a reputation to uphold. If she had to babysit them all the time, it would erode their prestige, and that would be seen as a disservice to Kirigakure's culture. No, she had to let them, and hope that they would come out on top. The whirring sound of flying shurikens snapped her back from her admittedly brief trance. Gracefully, the rebel leader dodged the steel stars aimed at her, and faced the ones who tossed them, a group of elite ANBU. Look at that. The most wanted criminal in the land of water, coming right into our prison. That's what one would call irony, one ANBU mentioned. Mei smirked at him. Oh, trust me, I didn't come here to become a permanent resident. Pretty much the opposite. You have a kill-on-sight order placed on you, miss. Spending your last days on a cold, damp cell is a comfort you won't experience, another ANBU replied as he unsheathed his katana, an action mimicked by his partners. Kill on sight? Wow, I'm flattered. My rebellion must be really more of a threat than what Yagura lets on, if he's so desperate to have me dead, don't you think? Mei squealed in fake joy. Under their masks, the ANBU growled. Let's silence this whore already, one of them seethed. Mei stopped smiling, and frowned. Whore? Now that's being rude. It seems that not only ninjas under the blood mist lack compassion and empathy, but also basic decency. Guess I'll have to teach you some myself. The dead can't teach anything. Water release, water shuriken. The ANBU created several water shuriken from thin air and made them fly at the rebel leader. Mei smiled as she made hand seals in quick succession, before slamming her hands into the ground. Amateurish. Earth release, earth-style wall. A wall of stone erected from the ground between Mei and her enemies, absorbing the water shuriken. However, while she was doing that, other two ANBU had flanked her, and were ready to slash her from two different angles. Mei, however, was unfazed. Not bad, Mei admitted as he made several hand seals. But as you are going to find out, bloodlust isn't a good replacement for genuine skill and power. Water release, water whip. Mei generated a whip made of water, and she twirled it around herself, expertly parrying and blocking the quick strikes of the enemy ANBU. Their fight was interrupted when a chakra golem tore down the wall, startling her a bit. "Let's see what your ninjutsu can do against this," an ANBU standing on the golem's shoulder taunted. Mei smirked once again, as she started to make more hand seals. "You'll see it shortly." Water release, all-devouring maelstrom. Water appeared out of nowhere and started to spin around the golem, quickly forming a water tornado. The ninja riding the golem let out a loud laugh. "You idiot! No matter how big you make your jutsu, the golem can absorb it," the ANBU taunted. "I know the golem can do that, but can you?" Mei asked, shooting him a condescending smile. The ANBU stopped laughing. Shit, when the water tornado formed, while the golem was left unharmed, the ANBU was sent flying high into the air. "Thought so," Mei nonchalantly said. She saw the golem stomping towards her with predictable intentions. "Well, let's see what can I do with you, big guy." While Kiba, Shino, and Tamaki went to deal with the enemy Kiri ninja spawning shadow clones to bolster their numbers, Kakashi and Rin were holding the rest in line. Most of the enemy forces focused on Kakashi, whom was deemed as the biggest threat, while Rin covered his back. Soon the Kiri ninja noticed that trying to take Rin out was just as hard as Kakashi. As the brown-haired girl clashed with the Kiri ninja, she started to notice something about her body. It was much more resilient and resistant. Despite all the time she had been fighting, she didn't feel tired in the slightest. She moved faster, hit harder, and her reflexes were much sharper. She wondered how she never noticed this earlier, but then she realized this was the first real fight she had been since her resurrection. "What? How a little girl can be this strong?" a Kiri ninja incredulously asked, as he struggled with the medic Nin in a kunai lock. "I work out a lot," Rin lied before pushing the enemy ninja backwards. "Keep your act together. They're just two, even if one of them is the copy ninja," an ANBU captain angrily exclaimed. "They might be just two, but they're quite strong, and their defense is too solid," a lesser-ranked ANBU complained. "You whiny cowards. And you call yourselves ninja of the blood mist?" the captain yelled before making a hand seal. "Show them what we're made of. Hidden mist jutsu." Soon, a dense mist covered the area, hiding the enemies of the Konoha duo. Kakashi tensed up, and tightly held a kunai in a defensive position. "Rin, be careful. Stay back to back," Kakashi told her. Alright, the medic Nin complied with Kakashi's requests, as she expected the enemy to make their move any moment. Then, a realization dawned upon her. "Wait a minute, this misty think I can use it to my advantage," she thought, before making several hand seals. As the group of Kiri ninja slowly approached from all directions, ready to bathe their weapons in the blood of the invading Konoha trash. Little did they know that the only blood spilled today would be theirs. As they slowly approached, they noticed that walking was becoming more and more difficult. It took them no time to notice that tall grass was growing around them. Grass? But how can? A Kiri ANBU wondered, puzzled. But it was too late. The moment they stepped on the grass, Rin located their position, and marked them for death. Soon, multiple vines grew from under their feet, wrapped around their bodies, and were strangled to death. Rin was careful to target their throats as well so they couldn't shout or warn the others about her power. Nobody could know. At least not yet. Time passed, and the attack never came. Kakashi was growing antsy, and so was the ANBU captain. Unable to shake a bad feeling, he decided to dispel the mist. The image that appeared before his eyes surprised him to say the least, as he saw the bodies of his subordinates lying on the ground, motionless. "What the?" the ANBU captain stammered in shock. "Good job taking care of those, Kakashi," Rin told her former teammate. The copy ninja looked at her with some concern. "It wasn't me who took them out." "Really? Oh. Well, guess that somebody helped us out, and then decided to leave," Rin said with a shrug. "You know, you were never the best liar, Rin," Kakashi sternly said. "But now you're being ridiculous." She had to admit that trying to fool Kakashi maybe wasn't the best of her ideas. "Can we talk about it later?" "We have a mission to finish," Rin replied, weariness seeping into her voice. Kakashi nodded and the two of them pressed forward. Meanwhile, on another side of the island prison, the division Kurenai's assault squad was part of had successfully taken over the barracks, and were quickly securing the building. Most of the enemy Kiri ninja had retreated towards the main prison block. "I took quite a beating from those golems. I hate to leave given that the fight is far from over, but I don't think I can be of much more help," Gamahiro apologized. "Hey, it's okay, you were awesome. We wouldn't have taken over the barracks so easily without you," Naruto complimented the giant toad. "Thank you. Good luck for what's left," Gamahiro said before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. "Alright, now that the barracks are ours, we can establish a proper infirmary and move all our wounded here," Kurenai mentioned. "Should we help the other divisions?" Haku asked. Kurenai shook her head. "Our orders were clear. Capture and protect the barracks. Unless we're given new orders, our duty is to stay here." "Alright then. Can I send a few clones to see how the others are doing? They might be in a position that stops them from sending a request for help," Naruto suggested. Kurenai pondered the blonde's petition for a few moments, before deciding that there was no harm in doing such a thing. "Alright then. Shadow Clone Jutsu." Several Naruto clones popped into existence, and run away into different directions. "Soon we should have pretty good intel on what's happening on the rest of the isle," Naruto proudly said. Zabuza-sama and Tenten-chan were on the main division. "I hope they're doing right," Haku mused. Water Release, Water Dragon Jutsu. Using the nearby water, Zabuza summoned a gigantic dragon-shaped construct that dived at the older swordsman. Jinan looked unimpressed, and started to swing the hammer half of his weapon at an incredible speed. Blunt Sword Ninja Art, Hurricane Hammer. The swinging hammer created a strong whirlwind around Jinan, and when the water dragon reached its target, it crashed and dissolved against a barrier of gale force winds, much to Zabuza's chagrin. And it wasn't going to end there. "Take this!" Jinan shouted as he swung the hammer forward, sending the tornado at Zabuza. At first, Zabuza was lost on how to survive against such attack, but then he quickly remembered how a past opponent managed to withstand one of his water jutsu, and decided to give the idea a try. He then stabbed the sword into the ground, and channeled chakra through his fingers in order to stick them to the sword's handle. When the tornado came, it violently tried to send him flying, but Zabuza was anchored to the ground, and thus wasn't moved. "Not bad, definitely not bad," Jinan complimented. "But will it be good enough to beat me? I find that doubtful. I already killed a swordsman of the mist before." "You're nothing special," Zabuza snarled. "Ah, yes, I know how you killed Baiwo-san and acquired his blade. Did you best him in single combat, or did you attack him during a moment of vulnerability? Does it matter? The fact that I managed to kill him shows that he wasn't worthy of wielding the executioner's blade and belonging to our select group anymore," Zabuza retorted. I surpassed Baiwo-sensei and every sensei, and thus his sword deserved to be mine. While there is some truth to your words, you won't be able to catch all your opponents off guard for an easy kill, as I myself am proving right now, Jinan replied, as he swung the half-axe of his weapon at Zabuza, who was smart enough to dodge and not parry it. Doesn't change the fact that you're a traitorous disgrace that needs to be put down. When the two of you are dealt with, I'll make sure Miskage-sama gives your swords to loyal ninja of the mist. Zabuza-senpai is the product of the regime you're defending so ardently. Chojuro blurted out, his words came with a surprising lack of stammer. You have no idea what are you talking about, kid, Jinan condescendingly said. Maybe I'm too young. But I know the history of my village. I know how Zabuza-senpai came to be. It was the blood mist customs that drove him to the path he ended up taking, as it did the same to many others who also became missing nin, some former swordsmen amongst them. The blood mist will end up tearing itself apart. Chojuro shouted, as he swung the Hiramakari at Jinan, who easily parried it. There will always be people unhappy with a government. But it's impossible to please everybody. Our duty as ninjas is to maintain order and stability, Jinan replied. Don't try to shift the blame of this war on my side, kid. It was your side who started. We had a reason to start this. Chojuro said as he jumped at Jinan, his sword over his head, which started to glow with a blue light. Hiramakari, release. The cloak of chakra covering the giant sword took the shape of a giant hammer, which the bespectacled young man swung at Jinan. Knowing there was no way to block such an attack, he opted to avoid it by jumping back, even if he knew that it would leave him wide open, something Zabuza took no time capitalize on, as he appeared behind the bearded swordsman. Your sword might carry a lot of destructive power, but your defense is non-existent. Zabuza taunted, ready to cleave Jinan. Then much to Zabuza's surprise, rather than trying to avoid or block his swing, Jinan instead swung the axe half of his weapon at Zabuza's neck. Zabuza released one of his hands from his sword's handle, and used it to grab Jinan's wrist, stopping the attack. But in doing so, he robbed his own swing of much of his power, and Jinan easily blocked it with the hammer half of his weapon. You know what they say, the best defense is a good offense. And no offense is better than the helmet splitter. Genie shouted as he kicked Zabuza in the chest, pushing him back, before lunging at him again. But once again, Jinan was forced to jump backwards as several kunai rained upon him, a few of them dangerously close to find its mark. Angry and startled, he looked around to see how had ambushed him, and saw a tall and slender girl with long blue hair that hid one of her eyes landing near Zabuza. Her uniform identified her as a rebel. Who the hell are you? Jinan angrily asked. The newcomer smirked. My name is Miyako Kiui, Special Jonin of the Kirigakure Liberation Movement, as well as an aspiring member of the Seven Swordsmen. Get lost, little girl, this is a fight between actual swordsmen, not pretenders, Jinan dissed her. Miyako crossed her arms. What, am I too much for you to handle, big guy? Quite the opposite, I'm not going to deal with such an opponent that's below me, so leave if you value your life, Jinan warned her. Miyako replied by unsheathing her katana. The most common way to become a swordsman is to kill the previous wielder of a sword and claim it as your own. And that's why I'm planning to do. This seems to hit a nerve on Jinan, who dangerously scowled at her. Alright girl, you got your wish. I'd be more than happy to put you in your place. Blunt sword ninja art, underground fissure. Jinan raised the axe half of his weapon above his head, whose edge started to glow with a dim blue light, before slamming it into the ground, sending an underground shockwave that shook the earth, and left a deep crack in the ground behind it. Oh shit! Miyako shouted as she jumped aside multiple times in order to avoid the widespread destruction. Don't get too cocky, girl. This man is a veteran of the Third Ninja War, and possibly the strongest swordsman loyal to Yagura, Zabuza pointed out. You should listen to your senpai, little girl. You're way over your head, Jinan added before raising the hammer half this time. Blunt sword ninja art, Earthbreaker. Jinin brought the hammer down once more, creating a massive quake that sent the two swordsmen and the one aspiring swordsman flying with an incredible force. You can bring as many pretenders who want to get their dirty hands onto our swords, yet it won't be enough. Do you know why? Because we fight for a higher cause. We fight for peace, order, and stability. You're fighting for the delusions of a mad woman consumed by her lust of power, and you yourselves are nothing but naive children throwing temper tantrums just because things aren't the way you want, Jinin harshly told them. That's why you're destined to lose. Zabuza managed to land on his feet, and raised his sword in a defensive pose as he slowly advanced towards his foe. You see us as children throwing a temper tantrum. Do you know how do we see you? As an old man who desperately clings to the old times because he's too afraid to face the fact that the world has changed, and realize that he's the last of the few relics of a past time. Now go to the place you belong, relic. Zabuza shouted as he tossed his sword at the older swordsman once again. Not falling for that one again, boy, Jinin replied as he also tossed the hammer half of his weapon at the flying sword. Both weapons clashed with a loud clang. Zabuza's sword was sent spinning aside, while Jinin merely tugged the leather link bounding both weapons, and returned the hammer to his hand. And now it's when either you or one of your allies ambush me from behind, right? And true to his words, he turned around and saw Chojuro ready to cut him in two, Hiramakari already moving to strike. Chojuro yelped upon seeing that Jinin had seen him coming. Jinin smirked, and parried the blow with the axe half, while smashing Chojuro's arm with the hammer. Aarrgggh, the young swordsman yelled, dropping his weapon to the ground, as he himself fell on his knees. Does it hurt? Well, that's what happens when you get into a war. People either die, or get horribly maimed for life. And while I doubt that injury might be permanent, you won't live to receive medical attention, Jinin said as he prepared to finish the job. Leave him alone, you asshole. Miyako shouted as she charged at Jinin. Even if the yell was an obvious alert, Jinin was already expecting either of them to try to save their comrade, and was unsurprised that his guessing of the girl turned out to be correct. Jinin's axe clashed against Miyako's katana, resulting in a shower of sparks. At the very least, two of the lost swords will go back to their legitimate owner, Jinin said as he effortlessly pushed Miyako back, who made several hand seals. Water release, water shuriken. Shuriken made of water formed in front of the blue-haired kunoichi, as they flew towards Jinin. But the older swordsman merely swung his hammer, and easily destroyed them. Nothing you can throw at me will have any kind of effect, girl. Give up already, Jinin dismissively said. Even if by some miracle you manage to win here, Mizukage-sama is already aware of what you did. Then you'll have no option but face Kirigakure in the open, and you will be crushed. Do you take us for idiots? The island is surrounded by our forces, ready to intercept any bird messenger that tries to fly into the mainland. Yagura will be none the wiser when we storm the village, just like we did with this prison. Miyako countered, as she delivered fast swipes with her katana at Jinin. The older swordsman merely smirked. Ah, yes, the birds. We found out later than what would have been desirable that that's how you've been gaining intel on us. But that tactic won't work with you anymore. Miyako wanted to believe it was just a bluff to get her upset, but he couldn't feel that her foe wasn't lying. What are you talking about? The blue-haired kunoichi shouted. Do you have anybody checking underwater? Jinin mysteriously asked. Underwater? Why would, she asked, confused, before a realization hit her like a sledgehammer. No way. Yes. Upon noticing that you were intercepting our messenger birds, we decided to take advantage of the sea, and used sea animals to carry messages underwater instead. Several couriers were sent away to Kirigakure a few minutes after your invasion started, detailing, among other things, that little sneaking you did in order to disable our defenses and open the dock gates. Mizukage-sama knows everything. You have no way to defeat him. Miyako was left stunned. Secrecy has always been the rebellion's greatest weapon, and now, they could no longer count on it. Even if Yagura didn't plan to hunt them down, he'll expect them to attack the village anytime, and would reinforce its defenses. Mei had stressed how important Yagura not knowing about them was. There would be no way to take over the village now. They had already lost. "Noit can't end like this," a still stunned and shocked Miyako said, almost in a whisper. "It can," Jinin said. "But Mizukage-sama won't have to end your revolt personally. That honor will belong to me." Jinin was about to cut Miyako in two with his axe, before Zabuza suddenly appeared between him and his potential victim, deflecting the axe blow to the side. "Goddamn-it, girl, snap out of it!" Zabuza angrily shouted, as he pushed Jinin back. "This isn't the end. I refuse to let it end here after how long I've been walking this path." "Didn't you hear what he said? Yagura knows about this attack now. He will be expecting us. All our efforts from these past years are now wasted. We can't win. So what? Things didn't go as planned. When do they do? I did meet my fair share of failures, and here I am, ready to take Kirigakure away from Yagura's hands." Zabuza shouted. Zabuza sounded so sure. Did the rebels still have a chance to win? He certainly thinks so. And what he said is true. He failed in his initial coup. He was captured by Konoha when he helped the Uchiha clan with their failed attempt at seizing Konoha. Yet the man didn't let discouraging odds to put him down, and persevered. Yes, he was right. They couldn't give up. Every problem has a solution, and they'd find a solution for this one. Besides, this was far from the first setback the rebellion had faced. Wiping the stunned expression from her face, Miyako gripped her katana tightly, and prepared to rejoin the face. "Sorry, I don't know what came over me," Miyako told him. "Be sure it doesn't happen again. I can't waste my time babysitting you all the time." Zabuza snarled, as he charged at Jinin once again. Zabuza and Jinin engaged in a fight once more. Loud clangs rang through the air as their weapons clashed. In no time, it became obvious that Zabuza was gaining the upper hand. Still, that was nowhere near enough to make Jinin consider defeat. "Just like I said, your defense is pretty poor. Your sword might provide you a formidable offense, but it will be for naught if I simply don't let you attack," Zabuza told him as he pressed on. "And you think I'm going to let you?" Jinin replied as he parried a blow with the axe half of his weapon, while trying to smash Zabuza with the hammer. Zabuza, however, disengaged in time to duck the mighty hit. And landed a punch on Jinin's stomach. Still, the bearded man didn't bend over. As the two kept fighting, Miyako decided that the best course of action would be supporting Zabuza from afar. She positioned herself behind Jinin, and made several hand seals. Water release, water shuriken. Once again, multiple water shuriken formed in front of her, and she directed them towards Jinin, being careful not to hit Zabuza with them. However, as if Jinin had eyes on his back, or a Byakugan, the swordsman swung his hammer in an spinning motion, deflecting all the shuriken, while all the same time using the axe to parry Zabuza's sword. "You think I'm such an amateur to not to notice how many enemies I'm fighting against? Trying to catch me off guard is URK." Jinin choked, as he spat blood. It took the presence a couple seconds to notice that Chojuro had appeared behind him, and struck his side with Hiramakari, whom he was holding with his only good arm. He was unable to put much force into the swing, but it was enough to make a grievous wound. "Why you?" Jinin asked in disbelief. I am not dead yet, I can still fight." Chojuro shouted, though he couldn't suppress his stutter. Then, Miyako appeared beside them, and impaled Jinin with her katana for a good measure. The older swordsman dropped his weapon, and fell to his knees. "You're right," Jinin said, coughing more blood. "To think that I of all people made such a rookie mistake. You have guts, kid, I'll give you that." Zabuza walked towards him, and raised his sword. "Any last words, Jinin-san? Yes. Do know that I don't regret my actions or loyalties, and die as a loyal swordsman. And since I'm sure you're going to give my sword to somebody else, make sure it's somebody worthy of it, Jinin asked. Zabuza nodded. I promise you the next bearer of the helmet splitter will be a swordsman worthy of your praise. And then, the aptly named executioner's blade descended upon Jinin, separating his head from the rest of his body, ending his life. Across the battlefield, all the chakra golems suddenly stopped fighting and were rendered inactive, with the seals slapped across their plating losing their glow. Zabuza then grabbed his head, and raised it above his own. Attention everybody! Jinin Akabino of the blunt sword is dead. The warden of this prison has died. Now give up, unless you want to follow a similar fate. Zabuza shouted. The fights around him immediately stopped. The effect of seeing their hero's severed head was immediate for the red-clad Kiri ninja. Some were disheartened, others enraged, but no one was left different. Jinin-sama is dead, a loyalist Kiri ninja asked in shock. Maybe we should surrender, another one suggested. The golems were bound to his will, and since he's no longer alive, there's nobody to make them fight, never. We're the blood mist. We don't have mercy, and we shall accept none, another one shouted. Yes. We will go down fighting, another Kiri ninja replied. Don't be such an idiot. Do you value your lives so poorly? Mei asked. As if you don't plan to execute all of us, you traitorous whore, the same ninja replied. Trying to contain her anger at such crude insult, Mei breathed deeply. No. I promise you that no harm won't befall on those who surrender peacefully. You will be treated as fairly as possible by my forces, and you will have the chance to return to active duty once Yagura has been deposed. No more blood needs to be spilled today. Mei's word seems to have some effect on the enemy ninja, who dropped their weapons and walked towards the blue-clad rebels, who quickly grabbed them. No! What are you doing, you idiots? Keep fighting, an ANBU yelled as he lunged at a random rebel ninja, and many others followed his example. The fight continued for a bit longer, but without Jinin, the golems, and a good chunk of the prison guards surrendering, those who refused to do so were quickly killed. The effect was the same in the rest of the island. They realized that the golem's sudden deactivation meant that their leader was dead, and thus they were without two of the biggest assets they had. Around half of the prison guards chose to throw their weapons and hope the rebels would have mercy on them. The rest decided to go down fighting. And as soon as the battle was over, all the rebels celebrated their victory with loud cheers and shouts of joy. We're not done here. Come on, we need to release all our allies, and lock up the prisoners. Mei commanded. And look for AO. Finding him is of utmost importance. Miyako then walked towards Mei, her face reflecting worry. Mei-sama, before he died, Jinin-senpai said something you should know, Miyako told her leader. Turns out, they did manage to send a message to the village. Apparently they use sea creatures that travel underwater as couriers now. That is grave news, indeed. Then again, it was a good thing that Jinin told us that. Otherwise, the invasion of Kiri might have turned into a disaster. Even if that means we can no longer use our original strategy, Mei replied. I knew that part of your heart was still in the right place, Jinin-san. Are we going to continue with the invasion? Miyako asked. Mei nodded. Yes. Now that Yagura knows of this, we can't fall back, even if he will be waiting for us. Turns out, the man named AO was locked in a secret underground cell which couldn't have been found without a censor's help. AO. We finally found you, Mei said, as the blue-haired man came out of his confinement. It's good to see you again. It's good to be free again, indeed. I was afraid I would never see you again, Mei-sama. I'm glad that I was wrong, AO said as he made a small bow. How are you? Did they torture you? Mei asked, a bit concerned. They did, and with a lot of enthusiasm. But they couldn't crack my will nor my mind, Eo proudly replied. Mei smiled in return. I see. What about your Byakugan? Do you still have it? Your seals are still in place, so I presume the answer is yes. Still in place, Eo said as he tapped his eye patch. And as you said, they were unable to undo the protective seals. Not without killing me first, which they wouldn't do until they made me talk. Then it's a good thing that everything turned out as we had planned, Mei replied, then she turned at the group of ninja behind her. Somebody please find Ao some proper clothes to wear in place of that hideous prison attire. Right away, ma'am, 2 ninja said before leaving. Now that the island is under our control, let's check how the rest of the fights went, and how many losses we suffered, Mei said. A few hours later, the sun started to rise in the horizon. Most of the cleanup had already been complete, and the island was fully under the rebels' control. The guards that had surrendered had been locked inside the very same cells they used to watch, while the prisoners, at least those who could be identified as war prisoners, were released, given ninja uniforms and weapons, and re-enlisted in the rebel army. Other criminals remained there. Mei also called one of her hidden divisions into the island so they could man the prison while the bulk of her forces took a well-deserved rest. Said reinforcements also brought food, clothes, weapons, medicine, and other supplies that the battle had drained from the rebel leaders' main army, as well as their Konoha allies. Some of said allies, namely Kurenai's assault squad, were inspecting one of the deactivated chakra golems, which was laying on the floor, motionless. Earlier, in an underground basement, they had discovered some sort of machine powered by the chakra of multiple ninja that actually supplied the golems with energy. It was decided that it wouldn't be destroyed, but kept for analysis instead. And while their next orders arrived, Kurenai's team was studying one of those golems. Or better said, Naruto studied it while his teammates and sensei watched. I didn't want to believe it, but it's true. These seals were made by my clan, Naruto concluded. I don't get it. Mom and Dad told me that neither Kiri nor Kyumo got anything from the invasion of Uzushiogakure, Naruto protested. Or they did, but decided to pretend that it wasn't the case so their enemies wouldn't suspect anything, Kurenai wisely pointed out. And it worked, given how off guard these machines caught us. If this prison had these golems as reinforcements, then Kirigakure has them too. And possibly in a much bigger quantity, Haku observed. It won't be an easy battle. No, but we already had experience fighting them. And despite their strength and abilities, they aren't invincible, Naruto pointed out. That power generator we found out underground suggests that the golems cannot be deployed far away from them, which means that they can only be used for defensive purposes. If we could lure the enemy into fighting outside the village, Hinata pointed out, with a small glint of hope. Kurenai, however, shook her head. That won't happen. Yagura won't deploy his troops in mass outside the safety of the village's walls. This war won't end until we take over Kirigakure, Kurenai stated. Then we'll need a way to counter this golems. Naruto-kun, do you think you can create a seal that can disable them? Haku asked his blonde teammate. Naruto looked pensive, but dubious. He placed 2 fingers under his chin. I don't know. I can try, but the sealing matrix that makes the golems work is way more complex than anything I've studied. Whatever you do, no matter how little, it will be welcomed, Haku said in an almost pleading voice. Alright, I'll try to work on something, Naruto replied, much to the ice ninja's joy. Meanwhile, in the prison's morgue, Mei and her swordsman were around the table in which Jinen's body, covered by a sheet, was lying. His death was a tragedy. He was a good man, I just wish his loyalty wasn't so misplaced, a sorrowful Mei said. Once the war ends, Jinen will be buried alongside all the previous swordsmen, with all the honors he deserves. There was a moment of silence. Even if it's too soon to ask what's going to be of his sword? Suigetsu asked. Is any of us going to get it? Mei nodded, but shot Suigetsu a glare. I was planning to talk about this later and not in front of Jinen's dead body, but given that you so tactfully brought up the issue, Mei then looked at Miyako. Miyako, I know you assisted Zabuza-kun and Chojuro with the fight, so I think you should be the one to inherit Jinen's sword. Zabuza-kun, the swordsman captain protested. Well, it's not as bad as Zabuza-chan, but still, really? Miyako gasped in excitement. Thanks a lot, Mei-sama. I'll make both you and every past owner of the helmet splitter proud. Oh come on. You need a lot of upper strength body to use that sword. Upper strength I have. Suigetsu protested. Do you dare question the decisions of our leader? Miyako asked, raising an eyebrow. Suigetsu merely sighed in defeat. Chojuro, what about your arm? Does it feel better? Mei asked the bespectacled swordsman. It does, Mei-sama. Konoha has some truly amazing medic nin. I still need some time before it's fully healed, but it will be recovered by the time the invasion of Kirigakure begins, Chojuro replied with unusual enthusiasm. Mei smiled. Good to know that. But don't try to overdo it. Nobody will force you to fight until you're completely healed. Anyway, we should get some rest. The battle has been exhausting, and we only just begun. Kirigakure, Mizukage's palace. Yagura Karatachi, the fourth Mizukage, was in a meeting with his advisors. Like usual, the topic they were debating was how to deal with the ongoing rebellion. More specifically, how to make them come out of hiding. It turns out, however, that such problem was about to solve itself pretty soon, albeit at a very high cost. Mizukage-sama, a couple ANBU burst into the meeting room, drawing everybody's attention. We carry grave news. The rebels have taken over the Crimson Citadel. While Yagura remained silent and pensive, all the counselors started to shout and argue among themselves. The Mizukage raised a hand while releasing killing intent, silencing everybody in the room. So Mei has finally made her move. I have to admit it was sooner than any of us were expecting, Yagura commented. That's not all. There were Konoha ninja among her ranks. It seems she hired them or struck an alliance with Konoha, the ANBU continued. I see. That explains how she was able to launch such an attack, Yagura said, keeping his cool. The loss of the prison is unfortunate, especially since we had the rebel head of intelligence there, as well as plenty of other rebel war prisoners. She will feel emboldened by this victory, and will move to invade the village next, Yagura deduced. Aren't you worried, Mizukage-sama? One of his counselors asked. With Konoha helping her, even if we defeat her, she could cause a lot of harm to the village, leaving us vulnerable to foreign enemies. Yagura turned around, and shot him a small smile. Not in the slightest. I was already counting on this to happen, and thus, I made the necessary preparations for the rebels' arrival, Yagura told them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained. Stay safe.